We rolling.
Chris Farley, man.
You know we're rolling. Hey, and what year is this? Damn. Sorry.
Riding Dirty.
White and Nerdy.
Damn.
2004?
Yeah, it sounds about right. Big Dookie chain here. Van Styles, Tash to the left of me, Hush behind the cameras, and we have somebody that I looked up to for a long time.
Oh, wow.
Still do. I mean, shit, I was at WERS doing radio, 88.9 at night,
88.9
hip-hop.
at night, legendary.
Who was the legend that we looked up to, especially if we were into hip-hop? It might be someone in this room right now.
Appreciate it, man. Yes, G-Spin here, finally made the Big Dookie podcast. I love it.
And thank you for coming out.
We appreciate you coming in, man. Appreciate you coming in. So, I mean, Boston, as far as Boston hip-hop and DJs
right,
go, I mean, you're definitely hip-hop DJs are Mount Rushmore.
Well, I mean, God, I love that you hold me in such high regard. I would not.
I mean, we had Hustle Simmons in here.
Well, he's definitely not. So it's just no. I love him. That's my guy.
No, I'm saying he held you that high esteem.
He said, okay, well, you know, that's what he's one of my close friends. I mean, look, there's Rusty, there's T. Clark, there's Chubb, there's Two Times, there's my mentor, the guy that showed me how to DJ, Ant Ski, there's Killer DJ, there's G Clef. You could go on and on. And then there's the OGs like that, Joey Carvello was a big disco DJ in Boston back in the day. So I mean, this town has had so many and in different genres, right? Like, I mean, you got somebody like Armand Van Helden who spent a lot of time here. He's one of the biggest house DJs in the world. Khan, 7L. It's just, you could go on and on.
Oh, absolutely. Now, are you saying this from having been in the industry so long, or were you like studying radio prior to going into the...
No, I was, it's funny. So I'd say probably about 7th or 8th grade, I started really gravitating towards hip hop. And so we're talking, 83, 84.
What's the first hip hop? What's the first time you heard hip hop?
That's a good question. I think the answer to that question is, I spent not a lot of time, but I spent some time in New Jersey at my grandmother's house. She lived in northern New Jersey. And so like, I remember trying to, on like a radio literally very similar to this one, finding Kiss FM and finding BLS. And then there was a kid I went to, and there's no way I'll remember his name, but he was like the first one I remember, like he was playing like Curtis Blow and like the Breaks. And I remember AJ Scratch, and I remember there was a couple of other records. So to pinpoint the exact moment, I don't know, but it was right around that time, like 8 Million Stories, like when, Curtis Blow had Run DMC come on. I remember the first hip hop record I ever bought.
How old are you? How old are you now?
I am 53.
I'm 53.
Yeah.
And so how old are you when this is going on?
So we're talking 14.
14,
So,
okay.
Yeah, so we're talking, going...
What year is this? 83? 83? Okay. Oh, so hip-hop is like... So it's not even out yet, really?
Well, no, it's out. I mean, there's things happening, you know what I mean? But in terms of... where it is in Boston at the time, I will tell you.
Well, is Def Jam out yet? 83? I mean, 84,
no,
right?
No,
85.
No, Def Jam, the record that Def Jam currently has out is... God, what was it? It's Yours, Tila Rock. It's Yours.
Okay.
And then, I remember LL came not too much longer than that, 80, 85, 86. And I'm terrible with timelines, by the way.
It's interesting on here because a lot of times we ask everybody kind of like what their first introduction to hip-hop was.
Yeah.
Because it kind of gives you an idea of how they feel about hip-hop and what they think hip-hop is. Mm-hmm. Like, you know what I mean? Someone's their first records are Kanye West records or, Chance the Rapper records. Yeah. It's a different feeling than if you got into it with Cool G Rap.
Yeah, I consider the time that I discovered it the golden age of the first generation, right?
Okay.
So if you go back to, Kool Herc and Flash and Bam and that history of it, like now it's starting to come, it's Rapper's Delight's already dropped. We're kind of past that already. Now we're kind of getting into...
The Message?
The Message is happening. You know what I'm saying? So Grandmaster Flash, obviously, it was actually the first concert I ever saw in the hip hop space was Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five at Brandeis University. I was in... It's either 7th or 8th grade. I remember begging, can I go? And, of course, you see 8 o'clock start time. The guys don't go on until like midnight. So I remember like going to the payphone, like, no, they're not out yet. And then the guys came out and there was like maybe 50 people in the crowd or whatever. And they did their thing. But I remember that was like the first rap concert that I can remember going to.
I got to pause for a second.
Sure.
I don't know if you guys have noticed, but G-Spin suave as he is over there, is naked right now.
What do you mean? Oh, I need a chain.
Damn.
Layer me up. Let's go.
Oh.
Layer me up. Now I feel. See, this sets us right into the
Right.
To the era.
We're in the right era.
The era you're talking about.
We're in the right era. These came into play.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. Now
Did you ever have one?
No.
No? Did you want one?
You know what? I lied. I might have had one very momentarily and then put it on and be like, you look like a complete asshole. But what I did have, though, and anybody that went to Brookline High School with me at the time will attest to it, is I had the biggest radio. I had literally the boom box that had the burglar alarm on it. It's the one that you see with all the lights on it.
Yeah.
And we used it when we warmed up for our basketball game. So yes, I was the asshole that had the big radio at the time.
Like the Radio Raheem radio.
Yeah.
Man, this was the biggest of the big. I mean, it was.
You know what they say about a guy with a big radio.
That's what they say.
At the time in hip hop too, that was that was the move though. Like the bigger the fucking radio. Like how many D batteries it take?
It was 8 double D, the Duracell, the big ones,
Yeah.
Which is funny because that was actually my first DJ name. Well, funny we say that. So it was my
Double D?
No,
Double Ds?
No, it was Duracell, DJ Duracell,
Okay.
the copper top.
I like that.
That's
Yeah.
whenever I read hair, I should have rolled with that.
Yeah.
So you're a kid. Flash is coming out with the shit. You're going to that must be cool too. Going to like hip hop concerts before hip hop's even like a thing.
No, I had no idea what it was. Like they came out in the blue leather suits. You know what I mean? It was the whole kind of thing. You know, and we weren't even really getting. You know, there certainly wasn't on MTV. You know what I mean? So there was no YouTube. But that was my first. That's when I got a taste of it. Now when I fell in love and when I knew that I wanted to DJ was my freshman year, Brookline High School. I went to a house party, and there was a gentleman DJ in there that had gone to Brookline. He had graduated the year prior, and I was friends with his brother. His name was Ant Green. And I remember him behind the turntables, and he had 3 turntables going. And the shit that he was doing, I was like, that's it. Like whatever it was, just something triggered. And I knew that's what I wanted to do. So I think even probably the next day or whatever, like I probably grabbed my mother's old turntable that had the arm that used to drop the records. You couldn't do anything with that, but that was it. And then I remember a little later on that school year, I got the balls to ask his younger brother, Randy, who I was friends with, like, hey, like any chance like Ant would like show me how to do things. And I'll never forget it. And so Randy was kind of like, yeah, come by the house, no problem, whatever. I'm like, all right, cool, no problem, come by the house. And I went by the house not understanding that Randy and Ant and their other brother, Sean, who I also went to school with, lived in the Academy Homes projects. And I'm talking about deep in the projects, not just like on the outskirts. They were deep in the academies.
The belly of the beast.
The belly of the beast. And, it's funny, and maybe it's just your ignorance as a kid. You don't really understand everything that's going on around you. I ended up, Ant, sure enough, took me under his wing. I would go to his house pretty much every single weekend, and he would show me how to DJ. And if you go back, if you're a hip-hop historian from Boston, and you go back and you listen to Boston Goes Deaf, which was the first real compilation that I got putting together by, Boston MCs. He's got a record on there. And the scratches that he was doing at the time were on the level, in my mind, was up there with like Mixmaster Ice and DST and like all those kind of like early DJs that were just doing incredible shit that none of us could even comprehend at the time. But Ant was on that level, and so was another DJ from Boston who's since passed away, DJ, I think he passed away, and if he didn't, I'm sorry. but Killer DJ, who was another amazing, and very similar styles. So Ant showed me how to scratch, and he showed me how to mix for sure, but the art of me being able to kind of blend records and things kind of came further down the line. But scratching kind of tricks and all that stuff, and I learned from him, and I literally went to his house in the Academy Homes, very, very often. And he would, eventually, I would carry his crates. The same story that a lot of guys have, right? Like I would carry his crates, and I would carry the equipment and speakers, and he was an electrician, so he would show me how little things to wire things and all that stuff, and that was it. So this my passion for it just grew and grew, and then eventually, like, he would say, all right, I'm not going to start playing this party until 8:30, 9 o'clock. So I would spin from like 7 to and he'd give me the opportunity to make my mistakes and play the wrong records and do all the things that you do learning up. But that was it. And he set the tone for me to kind of just get out. And then, eventually as time went on and I got a little bit older and, started getting with my early rap groups and all that stuff. And,
So to put everything in context a little bit, like, so we've had like Ramiro up here, we've had Hustle up here and stuff. And so from...
That was way down the line for me.
Well, I just wanted to start your context.
Yeah.
Being on like the rapper side of it, right?
Sure.
I don't know much about DJs. So like the people you're naming, like, I don't really know I don't know how much he knows about DJs. That's why we have you on here, an expert to like, kind of walk us through all this stuff.
Yep.
But like having Ramiro on here, it like blew my mind that, if no one knows that's watching this, you had a show on 94.5, the Launchpad, like that's, like Boston, we'll get to all that. But you're a well-respected, and you were a radio DJ.
Yep.
Like, so people think like when radio DJ now, you think DJ tricks, mixing, scratching, fading, all that shit.
Yep.
And then Ramiro comes on as a radio DJ, and I'm like,
he's a radio personality.
Okay, so there we go. So I'm like, do you? What kind of music? I don't fucking do records. Like, so I'm like, okay.
He's like, I turn the music down.
Yes, he does.
Then you have Hustle Simmons, who's like, oh, I'm a party DJ. Like, I'm just like,
I have. Listen, I have hustle stories for you. So,
what kind of DJ are you?
I started. So no, I was.
You know what I mean?
Like, I started just learning how to scratch, and then I dabbled. I never was really, obviously I made mixtapes, but I was never a mixtape DJ.
Are you a guy that can like fucking like cut like all that shit?
For
like
that time, amazing. Now
you don't do it. You don't do it.
I these kids are so good and so talented. Like I could never even, I remember when I first learned how to transform. Like after Jazz, I thought I was
what's transform?
So the transforming is really, I'm sure there were other DJs that introduced it to the culture, but when I first heard it was when Jazzy Jeff did it, and it's kind of like when you're making the song sound like a robot almost. It's like
okay.
So that whole process. So just even learning how to do that was like mind blowing for me and such a step to kind of where the whole DJ culture and the DJ generation went. But I say all that to say, so I was really good at scratching for the time. I was really good at mixing records. And I don't want to even say doing parties yet, because I really crafted that for the 1 year that I was in college, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But it was really just kind of about scratching for me. And so, I don't want to. There's one part that I don't want to. Go ahead.
Do you think that scratching is like what's the pure part of DJ? Like what's
no?
It's all.
Yeah, no. It had changed for me. So so that was important to me.
As a hip hop purist, like, is this like?
No, you have to learn. You have to be you have to be able to do it all. You have to know how to.
I'd say mixing.
And again, like mixing is the most important, and knowing how to rock a party if you really want to be a true DJ, right? Which I learned how to do as time went on, and we'll get to that. But for me, scratching at the time, and that's what I learned how to do, and that's which led me to my first real rap group, because you dibble and dabble when you're a kid and you don't really know any better. But like, I got down with this group called Microphone Thunder, and there was a couple of right.
Jesus
and so here's the thing, and so
that's hip hop.
So this is the time when Magnus had Leko's Lemma on at BC, and so that was really the first all Boston kind of hip hop show, certainly that I can remember, and we listened to. We wanted to get on Leko's Lemma. That was the Launchpad, well before the Launchpad, and so my manager was this guy Big Woe, who worked at the Shelbourne Center in Roxbury. And I remember I used to go into, at the time, Funky Fresh Records or Spin City or whatever.
How do you get to the point where you have a manager already?
So what happened was I was doing this scratching stuff.
Okay.
And he had saw me at some talent show. And I don't even really recall where the connection made. And he was like, yo, I got these rappers I want you to meet. And I was like, okay, dude, like I have no idea who you are or whatever.
And he starts bringing you around now to
no, and he did, and so I met these guys. Lived over on John Fernandez, my man, and Silk E and EXP was the beatbox, and we just linked up and we started making some records and whatever. Like our records, in hindsight, were probably just okay. Like they weren't great records, but these guys were performers. Like they did they were dancers. Like they rap, they dance, and I was just setting the tone on the DJ. And I remember the first talent show we ever did was at JP High, which I don't think exists anymore. I think it's now English has moved over there. Okay. Whatever, the schools have all moved around. But and I remember Candy Eastman was one of the judges. I think she was on ILD at the time, and there might have been a judge from WRBB. But anyway, long story short, it's our turn to go out, and he's like, "Look, you're not going to come out with the guys. You're going to be behind the curtain." And I was like, "Okay, why?" He was like, "Just trust me." He was like, "When you do your Eric B. as president like routine, just once it's time for that, just rock, go crazy." I was like, "All right." And so, they do the first song and there's no DJ or anything. It's just, there's music playing. I think we were playing from a tape deck.
Yeah.
And so then, clap your hands to what he's doing. And I'm doing I'm going back and forth and I'm doing the thing, but I'm behind the fucking curtain.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the fucking curtain opens up and I think the crowd is like, "Yo, what the fuck?" Like, who's this,
showmanship.
15-year-old white kid? You know what I'm saying? Like, there weren't a lot of us, bro.
So,
it was
You were the freak show.
I was the
Look
freak
at it.
I was the freak show.
Wait, where she was up in there saying the new kids on the block, same shit. They were holding in the fact that they were white forever and shit.
I was
and he knew. He knew.
I was the freak show. And
you're the young kid who's good at it.
And really,
and you're white. You know what I mean?
and I think back then, really the only other, and again, who knows, but in my recollection from what I remember at the time, the only other real white DJ that I remembered at the time was Jess McKee, who was on 88.9, I believe. It was him, DJ Eminem, Mark Murrow, and T. Clark.
How fucking funny is that, huh?
Yeah, and so
DJ Eminem.
Yeah, Mark Murrow, and he was great, by the way, incredible DJ.
Eminem, that's Made Men. Sorry, too much benzene.
Yeah, that's exactly. But and yeah, so that was kind of the starting ground a little bit. Like, that's kind of where we got this little bit of early momentum. And then, and then I rocked with them for a little bit. But, even just going back to the radio side, like the influences, Van, it's like, the importance of what 88.9 was to me. Growing up, especially when I was first getting into hip hop, the stations I used to listen to were RBB, which was 104.9, right? And it was there was a DJ on there named Wallace T that was incredible. I remember hearing him. I remember hearing Wendy Williams on there because that's where she got her start in college radio at Northeastern.
Okay, I didn't know that.
And then the day would be you would listen to ILD all day long,
which was an AM station for anyone.
AM station that would go off at around 7 p.m. at night because WBAL in Baltimore had that signal licensed after that. And then you go down at like 6 o'clock, 6:30, 7 o'clock, boom. Let me go over to 88.9. Okay, catch the last hour of the Rockers, which was their reggae show, and then 88.9 at night came on.
Something you might like real quick is Pro Black that PC did across from South Station. Do you know what station that radio dial was on?
I don't remember seeing it. I may not have.
1090.
1090.
WILD.
Yeah, so
that's what it was.
So fast forward, going on, through that process of getting with Microphone Thunder or whatever, I was lucky enough that one of my high school basketball teammates worked at Mickey Finn's. And if you're not familiar with what Mickey Finn's was, Mickey's was kind of the original OG sneaker lifestyle spot in downtown Boston. It was right on Temple Street. And I worked in the basement in the sneaker section for like 2 or 3 years. And that's really where I first met like Jeff Two Times and Tony Johnson and Big Chuck and like all of the Boston rappers used to come there to get their stuff. They used to get their Adidas suits. We had, God, in retrospect, man, I wish I kept like all of this stuff because I had it all, like the early first generation, like Nike Air Force posters and, all of that stuff. So working in downtown Boston, at Mickey Finn's so it was like Hip Zeppies or Harry the Greeks or Crystals and all these spots. That's when like the lifeline of like, it all kind of happened for me and just kind of being around it and seeing it and, shaking hands and just going to grab their sizes, all that stuff. And that's when I started getting a little bit more embedded in terms of the culture and kind of everything that was happening. I'm
just like I hear guys like you come on. You're another one of those guys. Chris Ferron's another one of those guys. You guys have been so many fucking places that like now I'm thinking like you had the sneaker store shit first, and then once you got into the merch and the fucking promotional shit that you guys probably had in your fingertips that like you just don't have anymore. Like fuck,
no, you have no idea. I mean, there's so much stuff that I got rid of.
It must just give you by the fucking by the boxes.
They would come in and just again like
shit that we would like I would kill for, like what I'm saying, like you throw that shit into a crowd crowd, people would fucking be fighting for.
And the crazy thing is too, I'm a bit of a hoarder, so I do keep a lot of it. But you know, when you're that young, you have no idea what's a value of.
Is there anything that you know that you're like, I wish I fucking still had that?
Oh, man, I wish I had my totally crossed out tour T-shirt.
Yeah, I mean, there's too many things.
Are you being serious? Is that really that your holy grail you miss?
No, that is one where I'm like,
you don't have a holy grail you miss that like you had the ODB wallet or something?
No, once I got into jamming too, like
that's
when
what I mean.
Started getting that shit. Like there was so much, man. Like
just the crate. Like we don't even know the
like I go through like my man what's his name? My man Ross One, who's got the T-shirt. He does the hip hop T-shirt book, which is incredible.
Yeah.
Like I'll flip through that and I'll be like, "Fuck, I had that." Yep, I had that. You know, you wear them. You know what I mean? You wear them. You throw them in the laundry. You wear them again. There's holes in them. You throw them out. Like that's kind of just where you're young. You're not thinking about keeping things, right? But
nowadays you buy it and you keep it in the plastic bag.
Well, that's what some people. I don't anymore. I had that little phase in my life, and now I'm like, no, I wear it.
I do the same shit.
But and so that's really kind of where a lot of it happened, and then. You know, that's really, and then I went away to college. I went to the University in New Haven for 1 year on a football scholarship to play wide receiver, and I realized pretty.
So you're a wide receiver too?
I was.
You're going all the fun. You're going all
yeah, exactly. But the difference between like the good white wide receivers and myself was that I did not like getting hit, and I did not like going over the middle, and I did not want to be in the weight room at 4 a.m., 5 a.m. like these monsters that I was going to school with, and I realized that pretty quickly. But what it did do was it introduced me to the college party scene, and that's when I learned to become a better DJ.
Are you getting paid for DJing at this point in time?
Man, no. I'm doing
You're still just doing it for doing it.
I brought my equipment to my college dorm with me, and my records, and the highlight of like my college career would be, Thursdays, Fridays after school, I put a speaker in the window and I would just rock for like the little quad, right? And people would come by. People would come by my dorm room and party, and there was another DJ from the Bronx, my man Troy Abel. So he was down on like the first floor, and we go back and forth and like have this little thing. But I say all that to say, like, I started doing college parties, and I learned how to rock parties, and I used to do like all the Yale parties and SCSU parties and New Haven parties, and I was going into New York City, and I was kind of seeing what was happening in New York.
Are you vinyl at this time?
Oh yeah. No, we're 10 years away from computers.
Okay, so you're in a dorm.
Oh yeah.
And I'm thinking like this guy already collects records like crazy. Yep. So I know his like house is stacked to the fucking ceiling in records. Is this you in college or fucking dorm is like just fucking records?
Before I moved to New York in 2008. My record collection was about 12,000.
Oh Jesus! How many records do you have?
Not nearly that.
It was about 12,000. It was insane. So I listen. I had a lot of records then, but then once I got into jamming, and they just
because you're a lover of music, I'm assuming, and you just like you're just collecting all these fucking records because you just want the music.
Did you have it all like cataloged? How did you know you had?
Yep. I had everything alphabetical.
So how many do you have?
I have no idea because I needed.
Yeah, I mean the reason I know
put them in a computer.
Well, that's what I did.
Yeah.
At one point, this is later on down the road. I was like, let me catalog and
that must have taken a minute.
No, it was forever, but it was a passion project. Yeah. You enjoy it, right? And it's when like computers first come. Oh, let me catalog my records, whatever. But yeah, and so then I drop out of college, and the next thing that really inspired me and ended up being a somebody that I looked up to and cherished having as a friend later on in life was there used to be this club in Boston called the Hub Club, and it was pretty famous like house club, but on Wednesday nights they had a hip hop night, and Clark Kent would come up from New York and do Wednesday nights at the Hub Club, and he'd be there. I don't think he wasn't there every week, but I think he was there bi-weekly. And I remember I went and saw Clark spin, and I noticed, around that time, all the New York DJs, whether or not it was Kid Capri, Doo-Wop.
I'm saying, is he Clark Kent at this point in time? Is he Biggie, all that shit?
Yeah. Well, yes. But getting into, he's more still Dana Dane's DJ than he is that. But we're getting to that point. Yeah, he's got a name for himself. Things are happening. And so this, Biggie came out with 92, 93. So this is probably 1990, 91.
Okay, all right.
And And I saw Clark spin, and again, like at that time, like you got Kid Capri, you got all these New York DJs that are big on the mic, like, you know, boisterous, loud, they talk, you know what I mean? That's what I can't do that. Like that's not who I am as a DJ, and I would look foolish, you know what I'm saying? I'd look as a complete poser if I'm out there screaming, put your hands up. That's not me. But and Clark wasn't a mic guy either, and I saw how he was putting his records together, and he was literally telling a story through the party, and he was just like a record would end, you know, like Sucker MC's, and it went this way, and boom, and he dropped another record. And I was like, oh shit, like he's connecting the dots through the words and the songs and the beat drops and all this stuff, which I wasn't doing at the time.
Can you give us a better example of that? Because like these are the things when you hear about DJs that like they control the whole flow of a party. And what you're saying is touching on that, but I'm still not like...
Yeah, so like for instance, like, you know, and again, I want to just said, so he would take Sucker MCs and he would, you know, play with the intro a little bit and he'd go back and forth. 2 years ago, a friend of mine asked me to say MC rhyme, so I said this rhyme I'm about to say. The rhyme was deaf and then it went this way. Now, if he lets the record go, took a chance to be, took an MC, but when it went this way, boom, and he hit Children's Story. You know what I'm saying?
Okay,
so he got the crowd up to one point and then surprised them with another hit.
Okay,
you know what I mean?
That makes sense.
Nowadays that seems like common practice. Like people know that, but at the time, like I'm kind of just I'm playing records, but there's no really necessary rhyme or reason why I'm playing records other than
you
the
like
beat
them.
Tempo may match or the energy might be the same or whatever. I'm not telling a story. There's not a flow to my style yet. And
that's kind of dope.
So it was amazing to see this. And so then I went back 2 weeks later and I fucking did the same thing. I sat by there. I literally would watch him. You know, I'm 19 at the time or whatever it is. And probably like 2 more times after I went that, I think he was just like, who's this fucking white kid that's just literally standing by? And the DJ booth in the Hub Club was dope because it was way up. It was on like the 3rd floor looking down on like the 1st floor. And he was like, so I came over and I was like, hey man, I love your style and I think it's dope. And so he just would let me hang out in the booth. You know what I'm saying? Like we didn't exchange numbers at the time. It was nothing like that.
It was just DJ shit.
It was just DJ shit. And I stole everything from him. I stole anything I could remember. I used in my sets, and fast forward.
Does he know that? Oh, yes, rest in peace. But.
Yes, he does. And to fast forward, like Clark and I became pretty cool, and I told and he's like, I remember you came. He didn't really remember, but whatever. Clark, who knows? But him and I became really cool, and thank God, like I certainly over the years have told him how much he meant to me.
How cool is that though? Just being like, because you're a fan of music, a fan of hip hop, and like you're just doing what you love, and eventually you get to Clark Kent.
Yeah,
like that's how accessible hip hop is though. Like if you just get in there and do it the way you love to do it, and like you'll get to the place.
Yeah, and listen, not everybody. He was also a rare breed because, and it was really. You noticed it at his service is that there were so many different people from different walks of life that were all connected through Clark. He was rare in that sense. Like he was just very inclusive and brought people into his circle. It's
just still like being a 13, 14-year-old fan of this shit.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, you're like, all right, I'm in the DJ booth with fucking Clark. Like that's just like that's crazy.
But you know what? But there's a lot of that, and I realized it a little bit later on in life. Is that there were a lot of people like that, though. I look at somebody like Eddie Q. Like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Eddie, but, Eddie Q is a long time, may still be doing it, a long time Boston promoter that, he used to run New England Record Pool. I think that was the name of it. And I just popped up there one day like, hey, man, I'd like to join the record pool. And he had, 50, 60, 70 DJs on the record pool list. But he was like, all right, come on. Yeah. And so, when you're new to the record pool and you're just kind of just getting in, like, you're not going to get the freshest records, the guys that have been there the longest. But I always noticed with him, man, like, I'd get a lot of those things. You know what I'm saying? And like, and he didn't have to pull me into the circle and let me in. Like, I didn't have any residencies. I wasn't DJing any clubs yet or anything like that.
Why do you think you did?
I don't know. You know what I mean?
You were just genuinely interested.
Just wanted to fucking do something nice. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's so rare that like we get those stories nowadays. So that, or somebody like Rusty, like I would go into Spin City at the time of Funky Fresh, and Rusty, and he knows, we laugh about it, but like Rusty's kind of grumpy, right? And so I'd be scared to kind of like even ask for like, well, what's this mixtape? What's this song? But he'd be like, hey, kid. You know what I'm saying? Like he would show me like what I needed to have. You know what I mean? So just guys like that. There's probably hundreds of instances, and I come back to it now in life.
It's happening right now. You're You're 94.5, and you're sitting in here with us doing an interview. It's happening right now. Benzino just
you're paying it forward.
Yeah, you're paying it forward. So it's the same.
But that's important to me. And it's more important to me like now more than anything because, especially even with Clark's passing, I was like, man, what are you holding on to a lot of this shit for? Like, again, like we'll talk about it a little bit, like the Launchpad, like those old shows, they're just sitting in my hard drive. I'm like, for what? You know what I'm saying? Like, at least, allow some of the Boston MCs that got on it, maybe they can hear themselves on the show or whatever.
You blew my mind with that. Like for when we saw you at Dane's event, and I was like, you remember the AWOL and shit. That blew my mind.
Well, it's funny because, we'll talk about that in a second, but, the thing about Clark was, and so then I had the Hub Club or whatever, and then, kind of through the next step was, and probably the real like game changer for me is that, I started getting just there was like little club gigs, right? And I linked up with Billy and Bobby McLean, the McLean twins, and they had just come off tour with Bobby Brown. They had been dancers, and they wanted to do some hip hop stuff. And they had seen me before, and they were like, I was cool with their older brother Al. And so I linked with them, started DJing for them, and we were doing shows. And Billy Bobby, if you've never seen their show back in the days, it's just they won the Apollo. 18 times, whatever.
They were KRS-One when he came to Boston. The guys that were dancing with
Correct.
him.
Yep. Yes. And so I was DJing for them, which in turn ended up linking me with Danny Wood from New Kids because he was kind of bankrolling and he was behind them and he was supporting these guys in their project.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
and he rapped on it. Danny Wood was a rapper
they were all from the same area. They were all from the DYC Dorchester Youth Collaborate. Yeah. This was their whole thing, and again, like this is gonna go off in so many different branches right now. But so through that, I got down with Danny and working with Danny a little bit and working with Billy and Bobby and kind of just that whole scene. And New Kids probably at that time were maybe just a little bit past their peak in terms of like the absolute madness, but still massive worldwide. Maybe the US was starting to quiet down a little bit, but like globally, just still out of control. I mean, shit, they're still fucking
still out of control,
right? They still going. But but then through that, and then I met T-Max because T-Max was Dorchester Youth Collaborate, and that was my first real like MC that I and again like the other guys for sure was, but like Max was different. And super fast forward, whatever, Danny and we started working with the guys from the Underground Studios, which was over in the Alston Brighton area at first, and then they ended up moving to Needham, and there was like a lot of stuff that came out of like Underground Studios. And so we formed a record label called Damage Records, and that was kind of like my first introduction to even anything remotely like that. No idea what I was doing. And Danny, he's an artist, you know what I'm saying? So who knows? But we put out a record on T-Max called Execution Style. That was phenomenal. Through some connects that I had at the Source, actually, a friend of mine, Josh, worked in like the classified section over there and like was selling ads or whatever. Gave it to him. He gave it to Riggs Morales. Boom, we got T-Max in the Unsigned Hype in the Source. So I believe at the time was the first Boston artist to get Unsigned Hype.
T-Max, that's the guy who used to work with Rhett, right? T-Max?
Yeah,
no.
man.
No, you're thinking of a different. Yeah.
Same name, same name though. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
T. Fuck on now. I'm blanking.
Whatever. Yeah.
But yeah, so T-Max, and so we got Unsigned Hype in the Source, and got a deal through Polygram and all that stuff. And super long story short, the music was phenomenal. Didn't work out. Just the story of hip hop as we know it. Right? Things don't always work out.
You were making beats at this time.
Not really. I was there. I had records. I was certainly doing scratches on the records. I was bringing records to be sampled.
Did you ever get on a record with Danny Wood there? Because he was rapping for a while.
No, I mean I'm not. No, I mean I think Danny. I think the only time he was really rapping was on the New Kids stuff, unless I'm mistaken.
But at the end of New Kids, he was rapping on it.
No, but I'll tell you what. If you go back and you listen to those early T-Max records, which I have a ton of, Danny was nice on the production tip. Like even today, like I go back and listen, like way ahead of where shit should have been. Then Dal Brain and Brad Young with the other producers at Underground, like the sounds that they had coming out of there was way better than anything that was happening. So, whatever. So that didn't work out. It worked out. It just didn't, it didn't go, right? Yeah. And, it was 100 stories. But through that process, I'm meeting people, right? Like I'm, DJ Mighty Mai from, High and Mighty. He was a student at BU, so I met him and Eon.
Really?
Yeah.
They were just up here like last week.
So, Mai and Eon were roommates, lived down the street from me, so I connected with them. And so now I'm like, I got a little underground hip hop connection thing going on. And then through T-Max, I ended up meeting, I don't know if you guys know the Governor Pete.
Yeah.
But Pete was really like the first promoter, like before Leeds and all that stuff, to start doing things at the Middle East. And so Pete managed Acrobatic at the time, and I think maybe a couple other people. And we linked up. I forget how we linked up, but we linked up, and then I was basically like his house DJ for, house DJ, not in terms of house music, but he would bring me in to be the hip hop DJ for all of his events at the Middle East. So I'm meeting kind of like this whole other realm of characters that I didn't know. So whether or not it's like, Acrobatic, Mr. Liff, Mixed Nuts, I'm just trying to think of like 7L and Esoteric. I guess
Schizophrenics.
Yeah, skits. Skits were a little probably further down the road, but in that realm, right? And so, what we started doing was, Pete had this basement, and he would invite like guys over just while I DJ'd and played beats just to freestyle, and he'd record them or whatever. And then we took it to Newbury Studios, which was the kind of like premier like studio at the time. We paid for it some time, and we put out this thing called the Newbury Freestyle Sessions. And it was literally, I don't want to say the first time, but what it did was it brought kind of like these underground rappers like Ack and Liv, and again, I hate classic. I shouldn't do that, but I hate class. Different style rappers from the city, kind of all together into like one freestyle session. And if you go back and you find it, and you can find them on the internet and whatever, it's literally like a 2-hour just jam session of me playing beats and these guys rapping.
Are you getting paid through DJing yet?
So again, well,
how are you funding all this?
Okay, so now here we go. So I'm making, let's say, $150, $200 a night.
Okay.
I'm living with my girlfriend, who's now my wife.
So you guys have been together for a long time.
Long time, living in Malden. We have a extremely lovely landlady who charges us, I think we were paying $400 a month. You know what I'm saying? For a nice little spot, which sounds so ridiculous today.
It's crazy.
And, I'm scrapping. I'm also have a job. I'm working at CompUSA in a warehouse, okay? With T-Max is working there as well. And I'm also working there with this guy, Kareem Ali, who is from Brooklyn. And he's a character, man. He's, 6'3", 6'4", good-looking guy, long dreads, just a hustler. And Kareem and I, we met each other because I had that Illmatic tape before the album came out that everybody had, and he wanted it, and he came by my house, and I dubbed it for him and whatever. And that's how we became cool. But long story short, he was a promoter. Like, he wanted to promote parties. And, the stuff with Damage Records didn't work out, and I'm kind of I'm scrapping to do parties, but I'm not really having a lot of fun. And, Kareem and I are trying a couple things, and they're okay. They're not, there was this place called the Sugar Shack, which was like down the alley over on Boylston Street. We did a couple good parties, whatever. So there's something there. There's some synergy, but I can't find it. And so, honestly, man, I'm getting ready to tap out, And
what year is this?
This had to be 95, 96.
Okay, so right when hip hop's fucking, like, it's starting to hit too.
Music's great. Biggie. I mean, again, Mob Deep, that's just Tribe. Like, this is, I'm in Wu-Tang. Like, this is things are happening.
Don't tap out now.
So, but I'm broke. You know what I'm saying? And I'm trying to figure it out. And I'm like, man, do I go back to school? Like,
and while this is happening, you rubbing elbows with like famous rappers and shit? Not yet.
No, Boston rappers.
Boston rappers.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and so magically, man, my wife's friend worked at this bar in downtown Boston. It's called Road Trip. It's over by kind of where I think the Fleet Center had just opened not too long before. So it's down in that area, and she's like, hey, they're trying to do something in here. Like, you want to do something? And I was like, all right. So I talked to Kareem about it, and what both of us had been talking about, because we loved it when we went to New York City and saw it. There was a party in New York called what was the name of the not Gordo. It was a throwback night. It was they only for drinks you had to get like Colt 45 and stuff. What was the name of it? Anyway, it was a party that was just strictly throwbacks. And I'm talking like Soul Kitchen. That was the name of the club. So there was a club in New York called Soul Kitchen. Both Kareem and I loved it. We loved the idea. We loved the vibe. So what we pitched them on was like, hey, like G's gonna come in here. He's gonna play like Stevie, Michael, Shaka Khan, like classic stuff, and we're gonna have like a sophisticated crowd, whatever. The owner and the guy was like, yeah, whatever, man. Like, I got nobody in here on Friday nights. Go for it. So we did. And first week, we had like 10, 15 people. I remember one of them was, Michael Holly. Mike used to come all the time. He was a supporter, and Michael Smith and all these guys. And we had like 15 people.
Why? Could you grow
Greg,
up?
No, he knew Greg Valentino.
Okay.
And Val was one of the guys that came through, and just we had a cool little like group of people that like would come just hang out.
Michael Hawley was a sports writer for the Boston Globe. He wrote the Patriots book.
Yeah, and I think
he's esteemed.
I DJ'd his wedding, and so like 15 people, and then the next week we had like 25. And then the third week, man, like we doubled it. Like we had 50, and people were having a good time, and it was like, wait a minute, like we might be onto something here. And then I shit you not. Week 6, we had a line down the block, and it was the biggest party. And at the time, this is just called Road Trip.
But why is your party popping the way, but no one else's?
Because Kareem. Because he was, and listen, I've worked with great promoters, whether or not it's Aleko, my man Rob, who I work with now, and Kareem was a hand-to-hand guy. He would hand you a flyer, shake your hand, and be like, here's why you need to, he would explain to you why, this was pre-social media, he would tell you why you needed to come. And the other thing was, he was so good with the women. Our ratio was at least 5-6 to 1.
That'll do.
Every night. No, every night. And so what happened was the night really blew up. Blew up to the point, then there was a name. So people like Road Trip, I ain't even heard about that. There was a name change. It ended up being called Cosmopolitan. And I would argue that Cosmopolitan, for those of us who lived through it, was the best club night in terms of what we were catering and what we were serving ever in the city of Boston. Yes, I'm biased. I was part of it. I was the curator. But that's just, anybody that was there knows what I'm talking about. And so that happened.
And you're not playing hip hop. You're playing.
Not yet. I'm playing throwback hip hop. But what happens is that the club becomes so big, and we're talking about a capacity of 400 people. So we're not talking about a large capacity.
As a DJ, do you care what kind of music you're playing? Do you have a favorite? Like, do you want to play hip hop, but you have to play this because they want you? No,
it was the way we curated that night.
So you're into this music too?
Oh, love it. Okay. Oh my God. Tonight, like, I'm here. When I play at Hugh, like all I play is like throwback R&B.
But this is now you were older. I'm talking about when you were a young guy.
No, I loved it. No, I'm into it. I'm really
so you're doing what you love.
Yeah, because it's getting sampled too. You know what I mean? It's like things are happening. I'm playing some like throwback reggae and stuff. So what happens is it becomes Cosmopolitan. The club becomes a big thing. We got all the Patriots. Willie McGinnis is there. Terry Glenn. Paul's there. Antoine's there. We got Iverson popping in. Jay-Z.
He's naming Celtics players.
No, but I'm saying like
he doesn't know sports.
I knew Jay-Z.
Yeah, like Jay comes in. We have Allen Iverson's there. Foxy Brown comes in.
Allen
like
Iverson.
We have the celebrity clientele that knows on Friday nights this is where you gotta go.
Yeah.
So you have AI out in the club in Boston?
Oh yeah,
that's crazy.
Yep, he came and we had everybody. I mean, listen, it was. But
no, that's cool shit. So these are the kind of things I'm talking about.
But this is how jamming happens, because this is. And again, I go from
before you get to jamming though, like just as a fucking DJ who loves playing music, you're like, yo, I did such a good job. I got fucking AI to come out to a club in fucking Boston.
Yes, but I can. Again,
that's dope.
I take very little credit for that. And again, I literally give so much credit to like Kareem and his wife, and Kareem he passed away. Sadly, got murdered. But they they were the ones that really put the work in. And again, I did my DJ stuff.
You're still part of it.
100%.
It's just cool. It's just cool, man. I'm giving you flowers for that. It's cool. Because Allen Iverson's someone, because these guys aren't sports guys. They don't know.
Yeah.
So he's not someone that's coming out like that.
No,
like, it's not, like, he's not known for that shit.
But if you saw the amount of women that we had at this place, it was a no-brainer.
It's
they used to all come. And so...
Yeah, where is that now? Where is that tonight? Saturday night?
Well, he's going to be in Hugh.
Yeah, shout out to Rob and his fam. Yeah, but what happens is that night becomes so big and so good. We start and I remember too, like, so what happened was, and here's where my ego got involved a little bit. This was the biggest night in Boston, and so through that, Kareem and I started doing. There was the Pyramid up in New Hampshire. We used to do that on Saturday nights. Like, we started getting more stuff because people were like, yo, what the fuck? They're blowing this shit up. And I'm making real money. Like, I'm walking out of there with a couple stacks every Friday. It's not even a question.
So now, that's
average,
the switch.
That's the switch. So in terms of me now, I'm making money, right? Okay. Again, it's all relevant.
It's all relevant.
But then for sure.
You can pay your bills. You're not worried about
I'm paying my bills. I'm doing good.
Now you're comfortable.
I'm doing good. Well, comfortable.
You can make art.
As long as nobody gets shot at the club and they shut us down, right? It's like this whole thing. But I remember Melissa used to come to the club a lot.
Melissa
from Jammin', from the Romero. At the time, Baltazar and Pebbles morning show.
Okay.
And I wasn't the only time that I ever listened to Jammin', like was even on my radar, was because my wife was such a diehard Baltazar and Pebbles fan, so that when the alarm clock went off every morning, that's what came on. I'd hear Baltazar and Pebbles. Meanwhile, I'm like, I'll turn that shit off. I'm trying to go back to sleep. I was in the club last night, blah, blah, whatever. You know what I'm saying? But that's really my only, like, again, my real exposure to it. Yeah, I'd poke around and be like, see what they're playing. Oh, they're playing Backstreet again. Fuck out of here. Oh, they're playing NSYNC. Come out of here. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was my exposure to it. Again, I'm still listening to ILD. I'm listening to 88.9 at night. I'm listening that is my.
We're all doing this.
That's what we're doing. But what had just happened was, and so this is 99, a new station comes to town. Radio 1 buys a radio station called Hot 97.7. And so I'm excited at this point. I'm like, yes, here we go. I'm getting on commercial radio because I got the biggest spot. Right, my club is rocking.
At this point in time, you want to be on commercial radio now.
Well, yeah, because it's kind of like the next step, right? Like, what am I going to do, right? And so, I remember Cherry Martinez is either the music director. I think she's the music director there, and they have this program director, Tom Calicochi. That was a real program director, and so they're starting to staff up. And I'm hearing about people getting hired. So, T. Clark gets hired, and they bring in this guy from New York City, Chubby Chub, and cool and whatever, and I'm not getting a call. So I hit Jerry, and it's like, hey, what do you think? We get on, and she's like, I'm going to mention it to Tom. Crickets. Nothing happens. So I'm like, fuck, man. Like, so the station launches, and again, like the people that are on the channel, like Steve Gooseby, T. Clark, like these are radio professionals, man. Like, in retrospect, looking back on it, I'm like, you fucking asshole. You didn't have any, you were doing a club. Cool. You know what I mean? You had no idea what you were doing. And, but yeah, I was bitter. And I was like, fuck, man. Okay, cool. Whatever. We're just going to keep moving. And I remember I'm in New York City. I think I was with Milo. And I want to say it was 7L. It could have been G squared. I don't remember. But one of those guys reached out to me and said, hey, Roy Barboza's trying to get in touch with you. And Roy was the DJ at Jammin' at the time, and he was the only DJ on there. And I remember I was like, for what? And he was like, I don't know. He called him. So I talked to Roy, really nice guy. He was like, hey, man, like, we're looking at, with everything going on, we're looking at expanding our mix shows. Like, would you be interested? And in the back of my mind, I'm like, fuck no. You know what I'm saying? And I think I was just kind of like, I was probably a dick, right? And I was probably like, I don't know, man. Like, not sure if it's a good fit.
Because Jammin's like the corporate bubblegum, and like
they're playing records that I'm not gonna I'm not playing. You know,
Hot was gonna be that new thing.
No, Hot was already the new thing.
It was gonna be. I remember
they were rocking, and I was kind of like, so there was a little bit of me like,
you don't want to go over here.
I didn't. And so I remember I was like, nah, man, I'm good. Thanks though. Well, but I went home, but I went home that night.
And your wife fucking murdered you.
My girlfriend at the time,
Yeah.
she said, look, this is what you're going to do. You're going to call them tomorrow, and you're going to say you'd love the opportunity to do it. And I was like, really? She was like, take a shot. I was like, all right. So I did. And I gave him, it's a 60-minute DAT tape or whatever I recorded on, gave it to him, and hits him back. He's like, yeah, man. He's like, I got, Saturday night from 2 to 3 in the morning. I'm like, fuck it, whatever. I'm like, what do I got to play? And he's like, well, here are the powers, whatever. He's like, mix these songs in with some new songs. And
what do powers mean?
So powers is, these are the strongest testing songs at the station. So these are the songs that test the best, right?
So can we, I want to get the program director.
We're gonna get to that
so bad.
Yeah. So we'll talk
we'll get to that, okay.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But so these are basically, I'll keep it simple. These are the records that you need to play. Mix them in with other shit.
And so you have an hour, they give you like 40 minutes if you have to play this. You have 20 minutes of what you want.
Yeah, it was really, exactly. Somewhere in that ratio. 30-30, whatever. Okay. I was always good at pushing the boundaries either way. So whatever. So I did it. And I just sent in a mix, and I left like a 20-second talk break for whoever the talking person was.
And you're not even in studio. You're just
No. I pre-recorded and gave it to them. And to be honest, I don't want to say I forgot about it, but I was kind of like, it was very nonchalant.
But how easy is that money though?
Well, bro, we're not even thinking money at this moment. There's no money.
Can you just send it?
No. There's no money. I'm giving them this DAT or whatever I gave it to them on at the time. And then Kareem and I, fast forward a little bit to this point, we had also started a party in Somerville called Night Games, which was at a Holiday Inn that we had transformed into a nightclub. Don't ask, but it was another fucking monster night that we had. Yeah. Huge night. And I remember leaving Night Games on Saturday night, and I put jamming on. And I'm like, I think it was like Maya Best of Me. There was some record it was an R&B record that I knew I played, whatever. And then I just heard Eric Edwards, who is the hip hop radio voice, go, "You're listening to G-Spin in the mix on Jammin' 94.5. And bro, when I heard that shit, that was it. I was locked. I sat in the car. I didn't fucking move for the hour. I listened to every transition. I listened to every time the fucking big radio voice guy said my name. I was like, this is the greatest shit ever. And that was it. And then I was fucking hooked. So I did that 1 hour on Saturday nights for...
So they moved your hour up too. Instead of 2 to 3, you get in there at midnight. They have you on earlier.
What happens is I got 2 to 3 in the morning on Saturday. And then I got Friday and Saturday 2 to 3. Because I think one of the other DJs, it might have been like G Squared or one of these other guys, came over as well. And so we each had one. And then... they didn't want to do it anymore, or whatever it was. Somehow,
but the first time you're hearing yourself, is it 3 o'clock in the morning?
3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
right.
2 o'clock, 2:30 in the morning, whatever time it was that I tuned in. And so I'm doing Saturday nights, and then I get Friday nights in the same time slot. And then they felt comfortable. They're like, all right, well, why don't you do whatever? I picked up another hour here, another hour there. And then what it was, Roy would literally start DJing from like 5 o'clock until like midnight. Sometimes live, sometimes pre-recorded, whatever. And then I would do Friday and Saturday night from midnight until 3 in the morning.
And that was live?
Sometimes, like mostly the time I was in the clubs, it would usually be pre-recorded. But again, I wasn't talking on the air then. Like I was just the DJ, but I would leave a window of 30 seconds or whatever for who the on-air personality was at the time to talk over that music bed and promote whatever they were promoting.
It's like ripping off a layer.
Yeah, and so this is also in the transition time for Jammin', where they're getting a little bit more aggressive, knowing that they have this new station. So they're getting away from the Britneys and Syncs. Yeah, and they're playing more hip hop and they're taking more chances and certainly leaning on me to do a lot of that stuff, right? No, Roy was too, but Roy also had the time slots where he had to be a little bit more careful. I'm in the overnight. It's not rated the same. I can have a little bit more free will to do it.
Why do you have to? I guess I kind of know the answer, but this is back in a certain time frame. Why do you have to be careful? Like, what are they saying to you that like you have to be careful?
So, all right. So let's just get to let's rip the Band-Aid off.
And you're a college radio. You're not getting none of this.
No. Like college radio. Listen,
there's the red phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll start ringing.
Oh yeah, the hotline's never good. I got that a couple times. No, but the way that the radio, terrestrial radio, commercial radio structured is, the way you get paid is through advertising dollars. Okay. The way that advertising dollars get distributed, and the reason why radio gets bought, is based on your ratings. So if you get good ratings, you get more money. If you get shitty ratings, you don't get as much money. And so weekly tests, music tests, or bi-weekly, or whatever stations do nowadays, back then it was done over the phone. Now it's all internet. They would call you, Tash, and say, hey, you want to be on this music test? Sure. All right. Well, what's your demographic? Oh, white male, say at the time 23 years old, whatever. Great. So we're going to play you, we're going to play 25 songs, and I want to get your opinion on them. Right? And then this is the general idea of how it works, right? This isn't to the T. So they play you seven, they won't tell you what the song is. They play you 7 seconds of a hook. Okay? So you hear this Ja Rule hook, always on time, whatever it is. Do you know this song? Do you hate this song? Did you used to like this song but no longer like it? Yeah, the song. The song is cool. It's one of your favorites. Let's just say, yeah, I used to like this song, but I'm kind of sick of it. Okay, cool. So that goes into the burn category, what they call it, because it got burned on you. All right, so boom. So now they play you another 7 seconds and play you another 7-second song, and so you go through this process of. And again, they do it on the internet now, whatever. So you rate these songs.
Only 7 seconds, though. That's like
7 seconds. One of those before.
7 seconds.
One of those market
right.
studies.
So 7 seconds. So that's all you get. You don't get to hear any bars. You don't get to hear the intro beat. You get 7 seconds of the hook. So that's how you're judging the record. Now, if you know the record, you're like, oh yeah, that's my favorite record. I love that Nelly record. Or, nah, I'm not familiar with that. So based on all of the people in that demographic, and jamming, I think, especially at the time, I think probably only tested women, probably 18 to 24, I'm guessing. I don't even think jamming necessarily tested men. So that's how you get. So now they accumulate the scores together, and that's how they figure out
what the powers are.
What the powers are. These are the songs that are testing the best. These are the songs that people are unfamiliar with.
How the fuck did they come up with that system? Like, that just seems like a backwards ass fucking system.
It does in retrospect, but I think at the time, it's a guide to. I'll put it this way. Dig into it. The way radio works is, think of everything as a 60-minute game. Okay, 4 quarters. All right. So you got 60 minutes. Every single quarter is 15 minutes. So it's football, right?
Yeah.
You have 15 minutes. Now they just changed it, but let's go back to the diary days when people were actually filling it out. What station did you listen to between 2 and 2:15? Jamming. Cool. You get a point. Now, things have changed a little bit because now they actually have people meters which can hear what you're listening to, right? But people are filling out diaries. I listen to the Ramiro and Pebbles morning show.
Yeah.
So
I listen to Howard Stern.
People meters, they're listening to what people are listening to?
Yes. We'll get to that in a second.
This is interesting.
But this is diary. So this is at the time people are literally filling out little books.
home listening to something and
am I the only one who always just thought that they can see when, like, how many people are listening from, like, how many different devices?
Not then.
And then it'll turn.
They can now.
Now they don't. They're not. Over the internet. They're not doing surveys like this. Are
no,
they?
but when I first started, it was diary based. So there was literally
that.
People that would fill out what
crazy.
they listened to. Now, granted, diary worked out great for me because I was number one in my fucking time slot for like 19 straight fucking books or whatever it was. Right. It transformed over now to people meter. So it's a little, let's say, like a beeper device. Here's where it's different. It measures what you're hearing, not necessarily listening to, right? There's a difference, right? So you could be in your car and say, all right, cool, I'm listening to ERS. But then you bounce over and you listen to the Sports Hub for like 10, 15 minutes. But, whatever, you got caught up in there. And then you bounce over and then you go to listen to BZ because you want to see what traffic is. And then you jump over to Kiss 108 because, your kid's in the car, she wants to hear Taylor Swift, whatever. So the people meter is now picking up where you're going, right? So it's a game changer because it's different from diary because diary is based on your perception, what the marketing dollars are pushing towards you, right? It's like, so the shows that are marketed really well, the shows that are promoted are naturally going to stick in your brain a lot more. And you're just going to think that I'm listening to this more than I actually am. You know,
these people meters, are these like a physical device?
Yeah, physical device. And that's part of the problem that they've had with people meter from the start. And say, you don't got nobody in the fucking hood wants to wear around this fucking beeper device. Like, what the fuck is that? You know what I mean?
It's like the Nielsen box.
Yeah, a Nielsen box, right. So traditionally the minority listening has been grossly underserved in this new world of people meter.
That's a weird fucking metric, man.
Yeah. So, but anyway, but to circle back around full circle that is how that is the reason for the power. So the idea is that every single time that you turn the radio on, the radio station wants you to have a chance of hearing one of your favorite records. Right. Okay. And so if there's 5 powers, every station is different, but let's say there's 5 powers, at least one's going to play every quarter hour. So if you're listening for the quarter hour, there's that Biggie Juicy record that I've heard 9 million times. I really like this record. I'm going to listen for the full 4 minutes of it. They're going to get a ratings credit for that because you stayed for 4 minutes. It's called time spent listening. So you got that. It's basically the cume of Boston. How many people are listening to jamming at the time or Kiss or whatever it is, and then what is their time spent listening while they're there. And so that's how they put the
has it gotten, because I mean you've obviously gone, I still get to your jamming story, and then obviously what you're doing now with Sirius and everything. So you've kind of been through this since they've been doing it on paper to all the way. I mean, you're a program director now, so you this whole
but now where I'm at, I don't even have to worry about ratings because I'm on a subscription basis.
Right. But you've seen the whole process from like inception to what it is now.
You were there with library cards.
Do you?
Yeah, well, no. When I started, I mean, it was CDs and carts. We were using carts.
But you're also in the street. You're also a DJ. You also have an ear for music.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's ever been an accurate description of a representation ever of what the fuck people are listening to?
Not a full accurate. There's some it's a little bit of both, right? Like it's not fully correct. It's also not fully wrong. You know what I mean? Like there's, the songs that people gravitate towards. And again, it depends who your station's also testing. Jamming, I think traditionally tested mostly women, where the sports hub's going to test only men, right? Or whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? So it's what's getting tested, who they're testing. Yes, it is certainly not a formula that I think, especially today, works. Back then, I'd say is probably, and listen, as somebody that I was so ignorant to that world that had to learn it. I mean, talk about somebody that came in with zero idea about, I just was like, yo, I'm going to play the hottest shit in the club. Well, guess what? Only 6% of your listeners even go to the club. So who gives a fuck? You know what I mean? It's one of the reasons why, like, I think, and this will open up a whole other bag of whatever, but like New York hip hop, it got so bad because like all the New York hip hop clubs closed and it was only the strip clubs, right? So I'd have, when I was programming at Power, I'd have the DJs come and be like, yeah, man, this record's popping in the strip club. Well, you're talking about less than 1% of our listeners are going to the strip club. What do I care? You know what I mean? Yeah. I got there, and they're not wrong. Yeah. Because I was that same guy. Like I understand, like you can only feel what you're out and seeing, but it's not a. So you had to get away from that.
As like a listener, right? Yeah. Because I've never been on the radio. You guys obviously, like we always have the perception of like, if it's going to be a hit, like the record label's going to make it a hit, the radio station's going to make it, especially now because the record labels own the radio station, which own the media companies, which own the newspapers, which it's all the same fucking company. Yep. But even back then, is it true to that? Like, we're going to shove this down your fucking throat until you like it?
No.
Really? So even like Lil Nas X, like Old Country Road,
tested. That record had to test. And again, like I don't know because I didn't see those numbers, but that record was a smash. Like people, it was a catchy record. I didn't like the record. Listen, Vanilla Ice, I didn't like the record, but the shit was fucking catchy. You know what I'm saying? And again, you got to remember, this is all basing off of a 7-second hook.
That's what I'm saying.
So
if
you have the hook,
that's crazy. That's fucking crazy.
That's what it is. Yeah, and again, like listen. There's no record station, record label, any of it. They can push it to a point where it's like they get it to a point. It's like, all right, this thing's either going to work or it's not. You know what I mean? Again, that could be 6 weeks.
Get it in the running.
They're going to get it in the running. If they believe in it, they're going to push, and they're going to push, and they're going to push. They're going to push. But at some point, the record got to stand on its own. And if it's not catchy, if it's not a hit, it's not a hit. You know what I mean? And songs. Listen, there's songs. I've been right on a lot of records. I've been completely wrong on some records.
Give us an example when you've been wrong on.
Oh, Justin Timberlake, "Sexy Back." I thought that was the biggest piece of shit record I ever heard in my life. I was like, what the fuck is this shit? Dun, dun, dun. I was like, this is stiff. Boom. Beyonce, Crazy in Love. Didn't hear it. Loud, horns, something that we hadn't heard before. Didn't fit with what the other stuff she was doing. No idea. The one I hit on, though, the one that I think really changed my trajectory in terms of at jamming was, again, I was a mix show guy, and the launch pad is already happening at this point. So we'll get to that in a second. But the record that I had my night show from 7 to midnight for so long, and I remember I got this Mary J. Blige record. It was a slow record that I put in like the Battle of the Beats or something. Or no, it wasn't even that. I played it in the mix. And I remember I got a lot of phones. This when we still paid attention to phones. I was getting phone calls and people were like, "Oh, what's
still paying attention to phones."
And it was Mary J. Blige, Be Without You. And I went into and I had just been invited to the music meetings probably like 3 weeks prior. And I never spoke up or whatever. I kind of just was shutting up, paying attention, listening, seeing how this research shit worked. And Cadillac, who was the program director and my boss, was like, gee, anything you want to mention? I was like, well, this Mary J. Blige record, it's kind of slow, but I've never seen my phones light up for it. And one of my best friends and one of my mentors, Chris Tyler, was the music director at the time, and he was like, yeah, we don't, ballots never work on jamming. We're not playing that shit, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, cool, man, like, whatever, you asked and whatever. Yeah. And so as we're getting ready to walk out of the meeting, Cadillac says, hey, let's play that Mary J. Blige record at night in G Show. I remember Tyler was pissed. He was like, that fucking shit. So much so, like, we had, like, typed out music logs. I remember he put my name next to it. It was like, Be Without You, Mary J. Blige, G-Spin. Just like he was like, this is your fucking record. It was the biggest record Jammin' had that year. It was a fucking monster. She did Summer Jam. It was the whole thing.
Did you ever like go back?
Oh, I bust his balls all the time.
Yeah,
no, we always talk about it.
Yeah.
But again, when I was at Power, fucking Bobby Shmurda, I was like, this record's a stiff. What the biggest record we had at Power of the Year. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, so if you want to get into the launch pad, we can certainly talk about that.
Well, yeah, but so you're now at Jammin'.
So I'm at Jammin'. I'm in the building. There. I'm in the building, and Clinton's there at the time. Clinton is doing a show.
It's crazy. I forgot all about Clinton Sparks.
Yeah, so Clinton's doing a show.
He's like our biggest mixtape DJ.
He was huge. He was fucking
Clint,
huge.
listen, I say this all the time. If I had half the hustle of Clinton, I'd be so fucking rich. I'd be out of here. But like,
he did all that Eminem shit. And all those
Clinton
mixtapes came out?
He lives this shit. Like, I enjoy Saturdays watching football. Like, that ain't in his DNA. You know what I'm saying? Like, Clinton is on it. But anyway, at the time, he's doing a show at Jammin' called Lyrically Boston. It's a half-hour show of all Boston hip hop, and I think he's doing it with I think he was doing it with a girl that was on 88 and 9, the 5-footer maybe. I think that was her name. But anyway, he's doing that show. Clinton leaves. Clinton's like, fuck it. I'm going. I got an offer from 97.7. They're going to give me my own show over there. I'm out. So he bounces. So that time slot's available. And so Dennis O'Haron, who's like my big brother and is now in charge of all of like iHeart's like national events. He does like all the jingle balls and all that stuff. He was the marketing director at the time. Him and I kind of got cool. And I was like, hey, man, like, I'm going to ask Caddy, like, if I can take over the show, like, what do you think? And he's like, yeah, for sure. Like, you're the perfect person to do it. And I'm like, cool. I was like, but I don't want to call it Lyrically Boston, and I don't want to play just Boston records. He was like, He was like, tell me about it. I was like, as a Boston hip hop fan and somebody that's in Boston hip hop and somebody that listened to Leco's Lemma, and at that time I was such a huge like Stretch and Bobbito fan. I was like, I think it's more impactful if I take a great Boston record and I mix it between a Jay-Z or a Nas record. I was like, because I think it just stands up next to it better than just playing a half hour of Boston records that, okay, some people might want to hear, but I don't think it's taking it out to a commercial level.
Now people are listening longer because they want that Jay-Z record.
Well,
and they're holding up the same.
They're comfortable with that, right? It's like they know Jay-Z, they know Nas.
Yeah. You're sneaking the vitamins in.
They don't know terminology and Ed Rock. You know what I'm saying? So what if I take that term in Ed Rock and I put it between the Jay-Z and the Nas record? Like,
they're gonna listen.
They're gonna listen, right? And so he was like, yeah, you should. He was like, you should tell him that. And I was like, but we need a name. And so I just remember we sat there and we start Rockets, whatever. I was like, yo, the launch pad. And he was like, yeah, that's dope. And so I went to Cadillac. I was like, look, this is what I want to do. at the time, and there's no way you guys remember this, but or you might. There was a therapist that used to come on jamming at 10 o'clock on Sunday nights. Dr. Kaplan, I think his name was. And he would talk to kids about like suicides and their thoughts and just like all the things that was going on. And so Lyrically Boston would come on at 11 o'clock, like right after Dr. Kaplan. And so Dr. Kaplan was still on, so it'd be Dr. Kaplan. And again, if it's not Dr. Kaplan, sorry, doctor, I totally forgot. But so he would be there, and then I would come in with my records and my CDs or whatever, my local stuff. And then the Launchpad started, and so this is in 2000.
Why call it the Launchpad though?
Just because I just thought, like, we were talking about like rockets taking off. It was going to be new music. It was going to be.
It's interesting because on our side of
name.
it, it is. But it's like so interesting because on this side of it, right?
Yeah.
Being an artist in the city at the time, the only place you could go was to him, 88.9, because 94.5. We did get a couple songs in rotation, but it was hard. It didn't do it right. But then like being on your show was like, we felt like as an artist that was like the most legit thing you could do. So that was actually the launch pad.
Well, that's
to like get to where you had to go.
So that was designed, right? And so just fast forward, like, so it was a half-hour show, and then pretty quickly, like, I went to Cadillac. I was like, hey man, can I get an hour? I got so much stuff. Got an hour. Fast forward, Dr. Kaplan, they moved that show somewhere else, and then I got from 10 to midnight. I think actually maybe it was even 11 to 1 at one point, and then went 10 to midnight. I forget how it all moved around. But anyway, ends up 10 to midnight. But to your point, so the local heat drop that I had, there was two things that happened in terms of that show. One of them was actually during this time is Funk Flex was expanding the Big Dog Pitbulls. Okay. And I was like, great, I'm going to be a Big Dog Pitbull. I know Flex, I know Cypher Sounds, I'm meeting all these guys, whatever. I'm the shit. Back full circle thing to like, I deserve to be on this new radio station. I deserve to be a Big Dog Pitbull. He was like, yeah, Roy, here you go. You're a Big Dog Pitbull. And I remember that just fucking lit a fire under me. I was like, oh man, like I'm ready to go now. And right around the same time, K Slay was launching his DJ crew. This was the DJ crew. So he had the Street Sweeper. So he was like, you want to be a Street Sweeper? I was like, yeah, I'll be a Street Sweeper. I love your show. So the two things, so like stamps. So it was always about like, what's my flex bomb going to be? Right? Like I can't drop bombs on records, right? So for all the local shit that I really like, I just had that big radio, Eric Edwards guy who was like, local heat. You know what I'm saying? Like jamming 94.5's launch pad, so there was that. And what you may not know is like, I didn't stamp them all like that. Like there were local records I was like, cool, I'm just going to play this record because I didn't really love it. But the ones that got the local heat was like, I'm into this shit. Now, there was something that said too for me, I'm like, you know what? As time went on, I was like, I don't necessarily want to I wanted to isolate the local records because I wanted people to take ownership of it and understand it was one of their own. But there was also times when I was like, you know what? I'm just going to play this and hit the Street Sweeper stamp on top of it just so they might not even know it's local or not, but just so it fits in. So yeah, everything was by design in terms of how I started that show. Funny enough, as I was driving up here and I was talking to Dennis, this year in April will be 25 years since the first Launchpad show, which is crazy. And so, so that was it. And then again, like, I think the show morphed, at least when we first started, it was, I had a lot of like acrobatic stuff and Ed and Term and, just everybody, right? Like it was new, so people didn't really know. But then the influx of stuff that I got, it was crazy.
Cool from like our perspective as well, because at that point in time, like I'm still having the AWOL thing, but it's like everyone's crabs in a bucket trying to get to these because at the time the internet isn't a thing yet, so there's only so many fucking spaces, only so many minutes. But it was really cool to be in a car with people and be like, yo, that's terminology. Like, and then like it just gave you a validation of like, oh, you're a fucking, because back then there weren't white rappers really yet. This is still like new to this whole shit. And people are like, oh, you're a white rapper, like, but no, you're on the actual radio. Like, oh, it's a whole new validation of that. Well, and your show gave a lot of people that validation.
Well, and the first day where I realized it was working from my end in terms of what I was trying to accomplish was, there were two things, and actually one of them I kind of just posted. I remember Questlove had come and I was starting to get interviews and meet people, and like now that I have a 2-hour window where I can play whatever the fuck I want.
At this point, there's no programming.
Not for my show.
Whatever you want.
They were like, G-Spin,
no powers.
Here's my cheat code, right?
No powers.
Nope. Play what you think is hot. You know what I mean? It's in a very safe time slot at night. The balance of new national music to local music probably started 1-to-1, but then probably went 2-to-1 national to local, just because I thought the mix was a little bit better and probably served as a better magnet to bring more people in. And then, the label started bringing like, oh, cool. Well, the Roots, this is before Jimmy Fallon Roots, the Roots are coming to town, and Quest, they have a project, and would you be interested in interviewing Questlove? Sure, why not? Would you be interested in interviewing D-Block? Sure, why not? And so what happened was, these guys that have been doing these fucking radio runs and dealing with like commercial radio, and they're like, all right, cool, we're going to go and do another show that's playing Nelly and whatever. Yeah. They're coming to my show and they're like, what the fuck is that record? Oh, it's a new record this kid Static just did with Terminology. Oh, that shit is dope. You know what I'm saying? Like, Nas, I remember.
Are you like, so you're interviewing fucking, famous rappers?
Both. I'm interviewing famous records and the local guys.
The local guys. But I'm saying, are you, because you're talking, you're not a mic guy. So
I am at that point.
At this point in time, but like, did you ever want to get into interviewing people? Did you ever feel like it was ever going to be something you were going to do?
No, but it kind of, so what happened kind of also leading up to the Launchpad too. So between me also doing mixes, I also started doing like filling in on weekends. Like I became a personality as well. And so like I would do weekends, I would do overnights for a little bit. So I'd be on literally live on air from 2 in the morning to 6 in the morning, learning how to be a professional, learning how to run the board, learning how to play commercials, learning how to read sponsorships, stuff like that. So through this process, I'm getting much more comfortable behind the mic. And in retrospect, going back, listening to some of the interviews, it's fucking painful. It's like, oh.
I was gonna say who's like who Romero said was the worst one. It was like what's his name? Fuck, he hated
R&B.
It was
Mike Epps.
Mike Epps, yeah. So did you have like a
Romero didn't tell you the story when R. Kelly threw the table at you at him, did you?
No, he didn't.
No, you left that one out.
Yeah, why?
Yeah, that was a good story.
You can't just say that. Why?
Honestly, dude, it was before I got there, and so like I don't know the full story. But anyway. Ramiro wasn't, and sorry, Ramiro, if I'm bullet. Ramiro wasn't supposed to ask R. Kelly about Aaliyah. I think it was. And of course, Ramiro, being the asshole that he is, asked about Aaliyah. R. Kelly got up through a table.
That's our guy right there.
I couldn't believe how like down to fucking earth Ramiro was. Like, because you only hear him on the radio.
But listen, Ramiro, I mean, even in terms of myself, I remember I was doing fucking weekends, and I had asked, Tyler, my guy, I was like, hey, I got to do a party on the Vineyard or something. So like, I'm going to voice track like the last half hour or whatever. It's like, so, can I leave early to get in? He's like, nah, man, you got to stay with your shift. I'm like, all right, man, cool, being an asshole, but all right, I'll stay. And I didn't stay. And fucking Hustle Simmons, he showed up late. He showed up a little late. So this
is all tracking.
Right, it's all right. So there was like this window of like 25 minutes where it was like just running like song in the commercial. There was no imaging. There was nothing. So Cadillac, my boss, heard it, called Tyler. I was on the Vineyard. I was heading on vacation. So I ended up getting suspended for like a week. And I remember I was in the doghouse forever. And I remember hitting Ramiro, and I called. I was like, bro, what I got to do? And he was like, yeah. He said, I think Ramiro's advice was, yeah, stop being an asshole, get back to work, and shit'll blow over, which it did. But yeah, I thought I was the end of it. But
did you ever have like a Mike Epps interview? Did you ever have someone that was just fucking impossible?
Nah, man. I mean, not really, man. Like I mean, there were interviews that were kind of boring. You know what I'm saying? Like
people are probably happy to be on your show.
Yeah, I mean, but even when I wasn't even outside of Launchpad, even like just like my night show, like I think it's a little different when you're doing a show like in a morning show and you're promoting something. Like it was very important to me. Like even when I was interviewing, again, I don't view myself as a very good interviewer. I was okay, you know what I mean? But I didn't do a lot of research because I wanted to ask authentic questions. So I didn't want to already know the answers to the questions I was asking just to ask them. You know what I mean? So it's like I really wouldn't know about, somebody's process in the album or whatever. So no, but listen, I had fucking some great interviews. And
yeah, who was your first big one? Or
I mean, Quest was good just because he talked. I mean, it's so funny when I go back and listen to it. It's like we talked for fucking like an hour and a half just about and this was 2003 or 4 or something like that. Yeah, Quest was good. Nas was a big one for me because I love Nas. Oh, my first interview was KRS actually. Now I think
that's
about
huge.
He did a show at the Middle East, and then I went back to his hotel after to do an interview that I recorded that I ran back. But man, what a fucking guy! He was the nicest human being. So I think that was the first one I got.
Were they asking you, like, were they pitching these interviews to you and you're taking the ones you want, or you have to take what they give you?
A little bit of both. I think they would pitch things, and I was like, yeah, that's dope. I think very, very rarely did I say no.
I was gonna say,
like I remember Master P came up with Silk the Shocker, and I'm in my East Coast ignorant hip hop thoughts, and I'm like. But they were fucking awesome. You know what I'm saying? So it's like
so you did it?
Oh yeah. I ended up doing. No, I didn't. And again, like the label people might say, "Fuck you, G, you're an asshole. You turned down." Maybe I did. Not that I can really recall. Like,
there's no one you remember like turning down. Like, no, we don't want to do that. Because I mean, Master P, I would have been in my feelings about that time too, and not want to do it. But now I'd be like, I missed that interview. Like it'd be like, cause it's a huge interview.
Yeah, it wasn't my shtick, but whatever. They were great. No, I can't really think of anything.
Anything like surprising ever happening in an interview? That like just completely like off script, off guard, like what the fuck?
Wyclef. Okay. Wyclef came in. This wasn't Launchpad though. He came in. I don't remember exactly what happened, but I was doing two things that happened actually. And this is actually one of the things that I kind of skipped over. Like the thing that got me. I was already doing the Launchpad, but the thing that got me on air on nights doing 7 to midnight was. And I tell her, it's funny, I tell her this all the time. We were doing a jamming party at the Roxy, where I last saw you with Royale, but at the time it was called the Roxy. And it was a Christmas thing, and it was Sean Paul, Angie Martinez, somebody else on it, and Nelly was coming. He was giving away a car, but he wasn't performing. And this is Nelly, this is peak Nelly. You cannot avoid Nelly. This is peak Nelly. But he's doing a Kiss 108 show in Lowell so it probably was the Jingle Ball at the time. It was at the Lowell Coliseum or the Songus Arena or whatever it is. But he's doing that show, and then he's gonna come over and give away a car at the Roxy later on. But it's a snowstorm. And so there's snow in New York, whatever. Angie can't come. She can't make it. So she bails. And this is, Angie's Before I Can Go, big record. So she doesn't make it, so we got to kill some time. So Roy's doing the DJ thing. He's rocking. He's like, hey, like, before Sean Paul comes on or whatever, he was like, why don't you just, go play some old school joints, whatever. Like, kind of like, all right, cool. I don't even think I'm doing the back in the day buffet at that point. I might have done a couple, whatever. But I got, he knows I got the old school bag. So I go out and I'm rocking just old school shit, crowds having fun, whatever. But Nelly was in the back, and I guess he was fucking amped. He comes out on stage and starts rocking over the songs. Like he's rapping them as I'm DJing. And I'm kind of like, what the fuck? And so then I play I remember Sucker MCs. I play that beat. He starts doing like Hot in Here and his songs over the old school beats. And the people are like what the fuck, right? And so it's this moment where it's like, cool. I'm rocking. I got Nelly that just fucking gave me the super cosign. All right, cool, done. Come on, Sean Paul. And I remember that's like when Cadillac was just like, oh, okay, like I'm not using you like how I should be using you. You know what I mean? And so that was like my first kind of like jamming like
and that's moment. Like because you're actually a connoisseur of the music and you're
but again
you're invoking that feeling in people.
Total fucking luck. Well, luck and also being prepared for the moment, right? Like I firmly believe in like my friend Marlene, she gave me this thing a long time ago about adapt and prosper and how if you prepare yourself for those moments, like, yeah, it's lucky that you get it, but you have to be prepared to adapt and be ready to switch.
Luck is preparation.
Yeah, what I mean? You got to get ready.
Capitalizing on preparation.
Yeah, like preparation means proper procedure. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's you gotta just be ready.
But how fucking cool is that though? Because now you're in an improbable group with Nelly.
It was and all because my future good friend and co-worker Angie Martinez decided not to show up to the show. So
crazy. So what's the Wyclef thing?
So Clef. So Ramiro was doing afternoons at the time. I think it was Ramiro. It was either Ramiro or it was I think it was Ramiro. Wyclef came in the afternoon he was promoting something. And he came on, he did an interview, and I think I was filling in for Roy that day, or maybe even Roy might have been DJing. I might have just been in the studio. But it's a very casual, like Clef is kind of just like talking to everybody, and it's fun and it's a good vibe. And then I think it might have been Roy, just started playing instrumental. And when I tell you why Clef rapped on Jammin' for like 15 minutes straight, no curses, straight freestyle off the top of his head, I was like, what is happening here?
Wow.
Like, it was so dope. Like, because we think of Clef and the Fugees, and, obviously we respect him and we know, like, how dope a musician and what he is. But I didn't know he had that in his bag. You know what I mean? And so that always stood out to me. It's just kind of like, man, that shit was dope. And there was a lot of them, man. We just, we could play this game for days. But, like, yeah, there was just like,
Well, see, you have these stories. That's why we need you on to play these games for days. You guys have the stories.
Do you have a recording of that Nelly rapping over?
No, but I look for it. It's so funny. I even trying to find photos. So one of our marketing people that I tap in, they're somewhere. Like they keep everything. So there's probably not a recording of it, but I'd imagine there's photos or something of it somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like so, of all the, I want to get back to the Launchpad too, but of all. Bouncing off that Nelly thing, is that the most hip hop moment you've like? What's the most when you're like, what the? Not even just for the radio.
Well, I remember we did through the Launchpad. I think we did a couple things. We did a Launchpad live at the Worcester Palladium, which I think was the first or the second year of the show, where we played songs on the Launchpad that people voted on, and then like the top 3 got to perform at the Worcester Palladium before a Wu-Tang show. So that was pretty cool, hanging out with the Wu-Tang guys at that time and time at the Worcester Palladium, which is an amazing venue. That was one. I'm trying to think like other cool. Oh, well, KRS full circle. Like we did another Launchpad Launchpad live, but there was either we were sponsoring it or somebody else might have had. There was a MC battle at Avalon at the time that KRS hosted that I was DJing. And I ended up DJing for KRS, which was, it's like, what the fuck? What planet am I on right now?
Right.
So yeah, that was cool.
These little things, like fuck the money part of it. I'm like, just the hip hop part of it.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, I've been in some good rooms. You know what I mean? And I hate talking about it because it's almost embarrassing sometimes.
This is the best part of it right here, man. Because like now we're all old enough. Like I always say, like just we did the Onyx thing. Like listening to It Was Written with Onyx as they're rapping the verses. It's just like it's blowing my 15-year-old fucking brain out of the water. Like and like no amount of money can pay for it.
I ended up at a table in Dublin, Ireland.
Here we go.
With Jay, Beyonce, Kanye, and Bono.
Here we go. Like, okay, and you.
Wow.
No offense to you.
That is my big room.
Yeah,
like so, people ask like, "What's your big room?" Like that's still something that even to this day, once in a while, I'll just Google just to see if like somebody put something on Facebook, like might have been taking a photo.
But you're all the one names: G-Spin, Jay, Beyonce, Bono, Kanye.
Yeah.
It's like so.
And I was also.
How the fuck did you end up there?
Because when they did the Watch the Throne tour, I had developed, and still is one of my best friends to the day. Jay's manager at the time is John McNeely, who now manages Jelly Roll. So it's like he's having this other amazing run. He had become like a good friend of mine, and Jay and I definitely had a cool relationship. And everybody was going to Paris to see the Ends in Paris record, right? Because that was a whole performing it 50 times, and I was like, Paris, cool. But I looked at the other tour dates and I was like, I've been dying to go to Ireland because I wanted to play golf over there because I'm another part of me that you don't know, I'm a golf addict. But I was like, you know what? I was like, it'd be cool. Let's go see them where nobody else is going. I knew nobody else was going from the industry. So I hit John and I was like, hey, cool if I go to Dublin? He was like, yes, come to Dublin. And so I went over to, they had 2 shows. They had a Friday night and a Saturday night. And it's such a super long story I don't want to get all into. But fast forward, second night of the show, they had been drinking at Bono's house all day, and I had seen the show at that point probably like 4 or 5 times. And so like they're on stage, they're drunk, they're kind of missing cues. It's just like a good vibe. And I think that, it was also game 7 of the Celtics versus Cavs. That must have been Eastern Conference Series when the Cavs blew out the Celtics.
Game 6.
Was it game 6? Yeah, whatever it was. I know the Celtics got bounced that night.
Yeah, I remember that.
And we just ended up, John was like, come on, get in the car. We got in the car. We're going down like these little fucking side streets. We end up at this kind of looks like a dive bar, but there's like a little speakeasy in the back. And sure enough, we go back there and Bono was holding court with his wife and some really, really drunk Irish guy that I have no idea what he was saying half the night. And yeah, Jay was there and B and Kanye came later, and Kanye's manager and this was the good Kanye, not the guy that we get these days. And yeah, man, and Bono's wife sat next to me and I think she could probably tell that I was like the odd kid out, and she was super nice to me, just engaging or whatever. But this is the funny part though, is that Jay wanted Guinness he was feeling good. He was like, "Oh, get Guinness for the table." And I'm not sure how it works in Ireland, maybe, but like they don't serve it everywhere. It's not just like everywhere got Guinness. It's like for whatever it was, like this place didn't have Guinness. And so I go, all right, cool. And Bono calls the whoever over. Cool. 5 minutes later, they walk in. They send them to the pub across the street to go get them. And so they come in and I saw it, and the true story. True story. So Beyonce absolutely body a fucking Guinness like a champ, like
things I was not expecting.
Yeah. True story.
Well, this is like your boys like get in the car. Yeah. And like no matter what you think of U2 or Bono is whatever the fuck, it's still fucking U2 and it's still Bono. And like if you're not a fucking idiot, you realize the magnitude. I saw
U2 at the Old Boston Garden in 1993 on St. Patrick's Day.
So you already fucking like it's just.
I've seen U2.
He's one of the most
8 times.
You're sitting with like 4 of the top 10 famous people in the world.
It was crazy.
you know what I mean? Like
and listen, and I've been
you know what I mean? Like
and listen, anybody that's kind of been in my world has sat at some good tables. You know what I mean? But that's the one that always stands out to me. Like, oh, that was cool.
So to flip it now the whole other way. Yeah. All right. So that's like the creme of the crop.
Yeah.
Now let's go back to like the Launchpad.
Yeah.
So you get to play your own. So now you're moving from you're already back at like 10 to midnight. Like that's the era like I remember like super heavy.
Yep.
And that was when you started having like local producers come in.
Yeah. And Static did my intros. Static was probably 16, 17 at the time.
I'm trying to think who the other. I did 2 of them, but one was Jay Hunt.
Jay Hunt for sure.
And you would bring in like what you would do is you would like launch.
Well, hold on. I can't take credit for that. I know where you're going with this. So the Launchpad Cypher. That's what you're talking about.
Yep.
Now, I can't take credit for this. So around 2007, it was starting to be a lot for me to take on, to put the energy into the Launchpad that I had in the past. I had taken on music director role at the station overall. I had my 7 to midnight show. I was doing clubs. I just started a family. I had my first daughter. Actually, both my daughters were born at the time. So I had a 2-year-old and a newborn. And so I found this kid, and if you ask me like where I found him, I don't know. I'm going to say I saw him at the Middle East hosting, or I heard him on the radio or whatever it is, but I met this kid on. And I was like, dude, you're fucking incredible. Like I just liked his energy, and I knew that he knew what was happening in the local scene. I wasn't I had worked with Dre Robinson. That's a whole other thing. Like me, I'd worked with Dre and put together his project where he had. I was able to get him Remy Ma and Mobb Deep and.
So you were responsible for that.
Yeah, I mean, so me and my man Marcus and shout out to Joey and Dre. We worked on that whole project and. Again, another situation.
Well, this is before Boston rappers were getting like national acts on their albums.
Well, no, I mean, I think Clinton was doing. I mean, Clinton was getting some people together.
It was still like spotty. It wasn't like it was a big deal. Like, oh shit, he got Mobb Deep. How the fuck he got Mobb Deep?
Well, we did Get Right. Well, because what happened was Mobb Deep was coming to town. They were doing my radio show. I was like, hey. What we did was I said, let's do the interview at Blue Jay Studios. That's the studio we were recording out of. And they were like, all right, cool. And then Dre was already there. We had the beat. It was all a setup. I was like, but they loved it. They were like, nah, this shit is dope. So they jumped on it. And then I was able to get Papoose on there. And Remy Ma was on there. Not together, which is crazy. Anyway, so we put the project together. So that's all part of it. Fast forward to On and On again. But I knew On and On, like I knew what was going on in the scene. He was living it. I wasn't living that anymore. Like I had moved on. Like I was doing the more commercial clubs. I was doing stuff up in New Hampshire. I was doing Aria. I was doing I was away. I wasn't doing the Middle East shit anymore. You
Is
know
he
what I'm
working
saying?
with you at this time?
Yeah, On and On was like my partner
Right.
in video over at undergroundhiphop.com.
Right. And so
But is this the same time frame when he's talking about?
had
Are
to
you
be,
working
right?
with him at the same time?
like
Okay.
he was hosting a lot of
Yeah.
stuff at like Middle East at that time, right? Like
Yep.
yeah. So he was
periodically,
just,
yeah.
Yeah. Like I just
A little bit of an attitude problem. But yeah.
Well, that's a whole other thing. But I just saw this kid and I was like, hey man, like you're tapped in. Would you be interested? And I think he kind of gave me the at first, like I was all right, cool, whatever. Anyway, whatever it was, it worked out because he was funny. He knew what was going on. He was a super creative man. That kid was so fucking creative. And so the Launchpad Cypher was really his idea. He was like, hey, you know, and this is like during the time when like we got, you know, it's Dre, it's Smoke, it's Frankie Wainwright, it's all the stuff that's happened on the North Shore. You know what I mean? Like there was a lot going on. You know what I'm saying? Like there was some good energy. And so he did that. And so he produced that whole thing. Like he would come in and again, he would get the local producers.
So do you know what it was?
So he would get a local producer and then he would get 3 random MCs from 3 different walks of life.
Yep.
And he would put them on. And it was great. Like so we had that. So he did that and he also did the Hood Report, which was amazing. So the Hood Report was basically like had a rapper like what was going on in Boston that
that was like that right there was like for someone in the music scene in Boston at that time. That was like the pinnacle.
Yeah.
Like your shit was dope, but like if you could turn on, like you said, you turn on 94.5 and I'm freestyling on 94.5.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, now here's the thing. So I had cats come on and freestyle before. Like we had been doing that since the inception of the show. But what On was doing was he was putting them all together in a so it was a song basically.
Well, what they would do is they would send us the beat, would send the verse back. They'd be like, okay, fuck with this, fuck with that. Yep. Okay, we're gonna have Edo's gonna be on this one. So say Edo's name in your verse. Can you do that? And that's what we do. It was
and he would do that, and it would be every week.
I can't tell you so you would play some AWOL records on the actual Launchpad, and then we would freestyle on the Cypher.
Yep.
And he would play AWOL records, and I would wake up every fucking morning and like go to the report.
Yeah.
Like the record reports and shit that you guys would put, like the stations would put out like fucking like the playlist or whatever it was. And like I'd be fucking circling them and like, you know what I'm saying?
That's also keep in mind too, that's also kind of when the blog era is just starting.
That was the blog era.
The Schizophrenics website I remember is the one like I was always on, like the Skit site was like kind of the early board, like Dion would be on there, like all these guys. But like the blog era is like early stages of that stuff.
But this is that, and it was so dope for artists to be like, nah, bro, like I got played at 8:05, I got played at 9:32, then at Launchpad I got played at 10:45, then the rap to show up over there, like, and it was kind of like a fucking like a.
But you know what was interesting? Even so, through all of that,
did you know that was all going on?
Oh yeah. Well, no, the craziest thing that was happening, even just before even On and On came on. I had a detective come by. It was a detective. It might have been Mass State Police. I don't even remember. Somebody came by the station one day and wanted to see me. And I'm like, what the fuck? Every single Launchpad show, the amount of letters that I would get from jail, just about like, yo.
Oh, shit.
So I would give guys shout outs. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was the headphone crew. Like, I would give guys shout outs. And I guess, like, when the Launchpad would come on, like, during those times, it would be fucking just guys would go fucking crazy, like banging on their cells because their boys were getting played, and like there was all of this shit going on. And again, like I told dude, I was like, yeah, man, I was like, I'll chill out on the shout outs, and I think I did, but
they wanted you to stop shouting on people.
It was the shout outs because they were like, look, man, it's
you're giving clout to certain people in jail,
whatever it was. Like I wasn't asking questions. I was just like, all right, man, you want me to chill out on the shout outs? No problem. Like whatever. Like it's not that. It's not that important to the show, but I was kind of like, man, fuck you. Like I'm gonna give. I still did at some points, but whatever. But I remember like just the guys that were like, listening, the letters that I would get, man, like, and again, it was never like, maybe it was 1 or 2 negative comments sometimes, but like this was before real social media, right? So this would be in real time. I'm seeing like how by me playing this artist, that's his man, and he got shouted out, it meant something, right? It was all this shit, right? And so that was kind of the first wave. And then, of course, we had our little like, rap rivalries or whatever that, we just stupidly have in hip hop anyway. But but when On did that, it was kind of like it was bringing people together, is which I really loved. It was kind of like hearing these 3 or 4 different styles from 4 or 5 guys from different areas of New England. And it was very cohesive, and it always worked, and it was a great addition to the show. Great addition.
It was dope. It was like literally that was like the validation of all the work you put in. Yeah. Because at the time, I mean, now hip hop is super accessible. It's everywhere. But like even our like little 3 album run when we did that shit for like 3 years, even that I've gotten like many people in jail being because the only place you could access hip hop was the Launchpad in WRS. Yep. So they would tune in like we all did, you know what I'm saying? But you would see people, like even Chris's article in the Herald that I have up there, people said they had that on their fucking cell wall and shit. Yeah. Because like, so I can imagine like you've had people come and be like, yeah, you were the voice that I listened to in jail my entire 10-year run of jail. Like I was fucking with, you guys. Yeah. So that's like a crazy, like a fucking, like almost a responsibility. I mean, it's not, but like.
Well, again, I always felt that was my baby. The Launchpad still to this day is my baby. Like I'm so happy that in whatever form it's in now or whatever, like, it's E-Double's doing it now. So when I left Boston in 2008, I continued to do the Launchpad with On and On, I think for about another year or two. Like I'd send in my part, whatever, he'd send me his, we piece it together, we make it work. And then I gave it to him. And then he left the show, and then I think Hustle did it for a little bit. And then when Hustle left Jammin', then they gave it to E-Double and Chubb, and now I think just E-Double does it. But I say all that to say, like, it's 25 years. You know what I'm saying? Like that's my baby. Like out of anything that I've done in radio, that's still the thing that I hold pretty close. I mean, Breakfast Club's up there too, but I mean the Launchpad for me is still something that is so important to me.
Well, you just kind of like fucking like jog something in my memory too. I forgot that you even did. Yeah. Are you familiar with the Back in the Day buffet?
Yeah.
Were you around for that?
No.
Yeah.
So Jammin' 94.5 is known as like a pop bubblegum like radio station, especially in the afternoon. Mm-hmm. But during noon to 1 o'clock, like your lunch hour, he would come on and spin like actual hip hop records, like real hip hop records.
Roy did it at first. Then I ended up taking it over, and I literally, Mr. C has the greatest, like the throwback at noon when he was on a Hot 90.
But we weren't in New York.
No.
Hush, do you remember the throwback? Because you remember, you remember back in the day. Because so, once again,
I used to go. Listen, I was supposed to be playing like more of like the Fugees, the pop stuff, but I would be.
You
playing
would sneak a Tribe record in there or something. Dude, oh my God, he's fucking playing. Like it was crazy. Like,
I play like Fab.
Just plug that one in. Just plug that one in. But
I'd play like Fab Five and. I'd be playing like the most random back.
No, but that right there was actually the shit because like so, I don't know if you know, like that's the only time like everybody would actually. You know how big that was?
Yeah.
Because everybody would tune into that shit. Like
plus, it's a great.
You listen to that shit every day, right? The Back in the Day buffet.
Plus, the brand is just a kind of it's a great name. It's like the Back in the Day.
Because that's probably one of the biggest like fucking like radio things that have happened in like Boston like hip hop that because the time I remember we got played once at like noon on Jammin', and it was like it was like a 1 o'clock in the afternoon or something like that. I was like, oh my God, like that's like a fucking actual real spin, you know what I'm saying? Like that kind of shit. So like everybody at noon is fucking like listening.
Yeah.
And you're dropping like fucking NOG records like in the mix of it, and you're like, it's like, oh shit, like he stuck a fucking like, oh shit, he got one in there, you know?
Yeah, I got a lot in. So sometimes I'd get that little hotline, but like
we appreciated the fuck out of that.
Well, thank you, man.
Because
and by the way, like that's one of my favorite like. I used to love doing that shit.
Because when we're on the roof doing construction and shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, and you get the boss to let you listen to hip hop for 1 fucking hour because he's listening to ZLX all day, you know what I'm saying? So we get the 1 hour, we put it on and...
half hour even, it was like 25 minutes.
And bang, it's like, oh, you got something out of it. Like, oh, it was worth it listening to fucking 94. Because we felt the same way about 94.5, you know what I'm saying? It's what it is, you know what I mean? It's its own entity and what it was, but that's all you had. Yeah. And you gave it like a little bit of validity.
Again, I probably pushed the boundaries a little more than I should have at times, but whatever. They let me do it.
What's the worst you ever got yelled at?
Well, for a record. For a record, you know what? They didn't really like. It wasn't like yelling at me. It was just like it was more kind of, hey man, like come on. Like,
did the red phone ring?
Nah, yeah. Well, not because of a record I played as much as like I might have said something and again, I wasn't like a shock jock, but like. I might not have done a break right, and I'd get just critiqued. I remember because I used to go air check with my boss Cadillac, and I used to be like, oh man, this fucking show is incredible. This is gonna be the one. He'd be like, nah. And then I remember one day he tossed his pencil on the desk and he was like, that's a good radio show. And I was like, yes.
Did you ever have the red phone ring?
I had.
He had a ring all the time. Look at the guy. Of course he did.
Yeah, he's fucking crazy, man. So what do you like? So what are you doing now?
All right. So when I left jamming, and again, I didn't leave fully. So I left. I left jamming in 2008 to go to New York to move my whole life down there in 2008 to be assistant program director at Power 105.
Okay.
So we went down there, rebranded everything. Obviously, put the Breakfast Club together, which ended up working out pretty well.
What do you mean put it together?
So 2009, moving into 10, we kind of realized we kind of had to shake things up at the station a little bit. Just, a lot of people have been there a little while. It's just, it's one of those things where it got a little stagnant. Like Ed Lover was my morning show. Imagine me going in every single day and working with somebody like Ed.
Crazy.
It was amazing.
Crazy. Who must have a million
Ed
fucking
and,
stories.
when I got there, talk about stories.
Yeah, he must have a million fucking stories.
So I worked with Ed. When I got there, it was Ed, Clue. And I knew Clue already, but
only in New York.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah, well, I knew Clue through the DJ and stuff, but we had to shake things up a little bit. We had to make some changes.
I don't mean to cut you, but even the difference in Boston radio and New York radio, it's
right.
Oh yeah, we had Clue come in and then Capri come in and Ed Lover and
that's New York.
what the fuck?
My first day in the office, LL was there. He sat down in my desk. Welcome to New York. I'm like, thanks, L.
Wow.
Thanks, Todd. But it's New York's just a different beast. But yeah, so I had met with Charlemagne. Charlemagne had got fired from. Anyway, fast forward. We knew we had to make some changes throughout the station, not just the mornings, but we had to shake some shit up. And I had met Charlemagne with his manager. He got fired from Philly. Joey IE, who was a longtime label guy and executive, connected us. I went and had lunch with Char, and his manager was Kevin Hunter, who's Wendy Williams' ex-husband. I was blown away by how smart Char was in terms of just knowing radio. He was a radio nerd. He was a bigger geek than I was as far as radio goes, and he knew everything, and I was super impressed by him. I wasn't feeling his manager at all though, and I told him that afterwards. I was like, I like you. We don't have anything right now. I was like, and I'm not sure the Kevin guy's going to work out, but let's stay in touch. Fast forward, I had tried to hire Angela. Angela was on Shade 45. She was doing mornings with Cypher Sounds. I think at the time I had gone to Paul Rosenberg, who's Eminem's manager, who also runs oversaw Shade 45. Asked him if I could bring Angela to do weekends. And he was kind of like, yeah, but you kind of, you can't take her for mornings or anything. And I couldn't really tell him and I'm not going to give her any more opportunities because that's life, right? So I didn't want to backdoor him. So I'm like, all right, cool. Well, if things change, let me know. And Envy and I had been staying in touch since he was on Hot 97. Him and I had stayed in touch kind of since he had done a lot of my birthday parties up here when I was doing the birthday party thing in Boston. And so we had a relationship already. We ended up bringing Envy over to do afternoons. So he was doing afternoons for me. We knew we had to make a change in mornings. Ended up, Charlemagne and I spoke. He was like, yo, Kevin's not my manager anymore. I was like, timing's pretty fucking amazing. Let's have a conversation. Angela was on her way to Philadelphia to take a job in Philly. I told her, don't get on the train. She didn't. We ended up getting the three of them together. We went through a bunch of terrible names. And the rest is kind of history, man. There was obviously a lot that went into it, but
I had no idea that you put that together.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Just me. It was me and Cadillac, and Cadillac. So the reason I ended up in New York was my boss at Jammin'. He went to take over Power 105 in New York. He was 8 months later, whatever it was. He was like, "Hey, would you consider coming to New York?" I'm like, "Well, I got a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, or a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, And I told him what it would take to get me there, and he was like, probably not going to be able to make that happen. And then he made it happen, and so I ended up there. So had a long run at Power 105. Was at Power from 2008 until 2017. That's when I left iHeart and radio altogether. I had an opportunity, absolutely random opportunity. to go to the talent agency side, the United Talent Agency. They were expanding UTA. So there's, as far as like booking agents, there's, CAA, there's William Morris, maybe I don't even know if they're called William Morris anymore, UTA, and then, there's a couple others. UTA was trying to expand their music business, especially in the hip hop and R&B space. So they asked me if I'd be interested. It was me, my man Mike Gergis, who was Chris Brown's manager previous to that, and Rob Walker, who's longtime collaborator with Pharrell. They brought the three of us in. It was an amazing experience. Financially, I pretty much tripled my salary in one swoop. So it was kind of a no-brainer. And for me at that time, too, in 2017, like, I was a little bit at the crossroads. Like, I didn't know how much more growth I had already being in New York. I didn't know where the radio piece was going to go for me. I probably could have stayed doing what I was doing for ever, you know what I mean?
When you're in all this, doing all these amazing, like, big, because looking back on it, obviously your retrospect is like, wow, holy shit. But like, when you're in this, do you realize the magnitude of this stuff?
No. And it's funny. I was talking to my wife a little bit earlier today. Like, as we get older, like, I think it's important for all of us, and it's hard, man, because like we're in it, and it's like you're always looking like, what's the next thing, what's the next thing, what's the next thing, but to like really step back and be like, yo, I'm fucking proud of myself, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, I'm proud of myself. I'm super grateful for, and what I try to do on my birthdays too is like I try to reach out to at least one person I haven't spoke to that had a hand in me getting where I got to, just to have a conversation, catch up, thank them. You know what I mean? Dope. It's important to me. But and so
I'm pretty sure. But Charlamagne was just talking about that Breakfast Club is the #1 YouTube like station. Like it's beating out Rogan right now.
Maybe. I mean, I can't even keep up. I mean,
even if you're in the top 5, let's say.
Yeah, I mean,
that's fucking. Dude, that's something to be proud of.
We put them together. There was probably 6 months. The first 6 months, we were kind of like, ooh, like this may not be it. It didn't get like Envy will go on and tell stories about how like we were gonna flip the station to country and all this shit. Like I don't ever remember those conversations. But I mean we didn't know. I mean listen, we took Ed Lover off the air, which was a risk. People love Ed. And
how did he feel about that?
It wasn't good.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
And I felt like a complete fucking donkey because I was supposed to be there for, because I wanted to be there. Not because I wanted to be there to fire Ed Lover, to be a part of it, but like I just felt as responsibility. Like, don't be a pussy. Like, you're part of this process. You knew what was happening. Like, be there. I got fucking stuck on the Metro North train getting in, and my body's like, you close? I'm like, and I'm stuck, and I couldn't get there. So literally, I walk in the building. As I'm walking in the building, I put my key card through. I'm walking through the thing. The elevator door's open. It's fucking Ed, like walking out. And he just looked at me. He was like, hey, man, like, thank you for everything. It was super fucking, like, the top of the top, like, classy dude. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Like, so, but that was one of the hardest days. I mean, professionally is easily one of the hardest days. I mean, it wasn't just Ed. It was, like, his producer, who I was super close with, and our midday girl, who, Deja, who's gone on to be an amazing personality at BLS in New York. And she was on Jammin' for a little while, too, voice tracking, like Deja. So it was we let go of like 6 people, you know what I'm saying? So like those days suck. And the people that were there when I first got there, you know what I mean? That embraced me, took me in, made me comfortable in New York, you know what I mean? So that was terrible. But yeah, fast forward and then, Breakfast Club may work, may not work. And then Ray J happened, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And I got indoor basketball courts, I got outdoor basketball. I got indoor pools, I got outdoor pools, so that happened. And
Soulja Boy,
Birdman, it was all, all of that.
So
stuff.
what when those things are happening, are you there? What's
Ray J was so early in the morning, I was not. Soulja Boy, I was there for. Birdman, I just missed. Usually I would get in right after the show, so by the time I leave where I live in Connecticut to get into the city, I would usually get in right after the show around like 10:15, 10:30. Those guys always say anytime I showed up at like 8:30, they were like, yeah, somebody's getting fired today. But yeah, so I got there like right after the Birdman shit happened. And I remember walking in and Shar just said, oh boy, we got one. And I was like, what happened? He was like, he said, you'll see. And then, the rest was history.
Hey, maybe that'll be you and Benzino's interview from earlier today. I mean, the Soulja Boy one, I feel like it's something I can just return to whenever I'm feeling down.
Listen, they've had
the level of like it was amazing.
There's always been a lot of delusional things that have happened on that show.
But
I mean, so that, and then Angie Martinez, we miraculously pulled her away from Hot 97. I think in 2014 that my boss Thea Mitchum pulled off, which was amazing. And I got to work with Angie. I got to we had rotating DJs for Angie on our 5 o'clock show. And I think it might even still be on my Instagram that, one of the DJs couldn't make it one day. I was like, I'll do it. And it's like, great. And so I DJing for Angie at 5 o'clock in New York City. I was like, come on, man. Like,
yeah,
crazy.
Yeah. Like, how fucking awesome is this? And then there was even a window where we were between like board ops and producers. And, I'd be in my office. I was like, you know what, Angie, like, while we're in the transition, I was like, so I think I ran Angie's board and helped produce the show for probably like 6 weeks. It was fun because like we go back and forth on the air talking. You know what I mean? She's so fucking iconic. It's like insane.
Yeah.
The Breakfast Club. I mean, Breakfast Club and Angie both. Radio Hall of Famers.
Is there anything from the Breakfast Club that didn't make the air that we don't know about?
No, not really. No, and I'm not saying that just to say it. I mean, there may have been something that got clipped, but I don't. Not that I can remember. To be honest, man. Like it was pretty well known. Like
who was the final say?
I think, really they were like, listen, it was too, listen, if anything was like vulgar or whatever, like that wasn't getting on, but I don't think that really ever happened. Like there was no
issues.
There was no fight. There was no real fist. There was nothing happened that we cut out. And again, like I left there in 2017. So anything post that I can't speak to, but while I was there, no, certainly not. People knew when they came in, it's like, hey, like this is a hard hitting show. Like you're not going to get the layups that you get everywhere else. And that's what worked. You know what I mean? And now you see, obviously what Char's become and whether or not it's doing Daily Show and all this other stuff. It's like,
which is crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's insane. So anyway, so I leave there, go to UTA. Money was great experience. Learning about the live touring space was cool. It just wasn't a fit. And I knew pretty early on, and I think they did. It was just the agency world wasn't for me, but I wouldn't trade doing it in a heartbeat. It was perfect timing for me in my life. And again, I met a whole different realm of people that weren't in my world that I now have long-term relationships with and have done work with. So it certainly benefited me. So I don't miss that. Then I was out of work for a little bit. I was consulting. I was working with my good friend Gary Morella in Timberland, helping them with some stuff. And then Tim got a joint venture at Def Jam in early 2019. And they asked me to be general manager.
You're talking about Timberland.
Timberland, the producer.
Okay,
yeah. And so
bring sexy back.
Yeah.
Right there.
Exactly.
There
The one I didn't get. Right.
Yeah.
And
did you ever tell him you didn't get it?
Yeah, I think we had that conversation. I think he laughed. So I was GM of his label for a little short period of time. There were just, we had a couple things.
Is there anyone in the hip hop space that you haven't had a job with and worked with? I mean,
oh yeah, no, it's plenty.
Because it just seems like this fucking super famous guy, this super famous guy.
No, it just,
and not even that, the icons and pillars of hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it's just again
it's a really cool space to be in.
It was just always important to me. Like again, and I'm not critiquing the people that do this, but like when artists would come in, like I'm not a big, hey, let's take a photo and put it on my Instagram guy. Like not really comfortable with that, but whatever. I'm not saying
we're about to do that with you, but
yeah. I'm not saying that I don't have
judge.
I don't have those. No, I don't.
I'm kidding.
I'm not saying I don't have those photos, but like that wasn't my go-to, and my go-to wasn't like, hey man, why don't you spit this freestyle for me for my mixtape? Like guys like Clinton, he had a studio on his own. Like that was his. He needed that for what he did. I didn't need that for what I did. So it was always important for me just to, look you in the eye, give you a handshake. Thank you for coming to do my show. And when I see you out and about, like, if you remember me, great. If you don't, that's okay too. And, let's just keep the relationship going. And I think
zen.
Well, a little bit. I think it just benefited me down the road that I think people knew that I wasn't out for anything from them and that I did good work and I worked hard and the things that I had done had been pretty successful. Again, UTA didn't work out for me, but I don't look back on it as a failure. It was really the first time in my kind of like, my professional path that didn't work out though. So it was a little bit of an ego hit. Like, to be honest, like I was like, fuck, man, like I failed. You know, it didn't work. You know what I mean? Like where I had myself going fine. But again, everything happens for a reason. And then, you know, Gary Morello, who is Tim's manager, is a very, very close friend of mine. And like when I was transitioned to New York, he had an apartment, like he let me stay in. Like this is a friend that was probably like, hey man, I know you're fucking out of work. I got this opportunity. You want to do it? Great. Yes. Thank you for throwing me, you know, but he also knew that I work hard and I have great relationships and that I can move the needle for him. So I did that. The thing was, there just we just didn't have a whole lot of product at the time. And I was itching a little bit to get back in, not to radio, but I wanted to get back in a more creative space. And then in middle of 2019, I saw something and come across it. It was like Drake was launching his own channel on Sirius XM.
Well, that's what I want to get to now. So this guy right here is a huge Drake fan.
Good.
Huge. Well, we debate all the time in this space of like, and it's me for the most part about Drake's hip hop authenticity. Like, and you probably already know where I'm going with all that and shit and everything. So we're always in the space on this. So he's a huge Drake guy. I know you work with that outfit now, correct? Yeah. Yeah. So what
ended up happening was in 2019 they announced it. They weren't ready to go. Long story short, I had a conversation with them. They wanted me to come program this channel. The thing that was really inviting to me about this channel is that it was going to be unlike anything that I'd ever done before. We were going to attack it from, and again, it's not commercial radio, so I don't have to worry about ratings. I don't have to worry about the strength of records. We're playing shit that we think is cool and it's early and it's groundbreaking, and almost taking it from a international perspective. So we play early Central C, like UK grime. We're playing Afrobeats. We played Thames 2 years before anybody else did. We're playing records that you're not going to hear anywhere else. Playing, you know, Cleo Soul and this dope new wave of like alt R&B. And then obviously we have Drake stuff and we have OVO stuff that kind of fits in the gaps as far as, you know, it's like if you're looking for commercial records and again, we don't play really like the Drake mega hits. Like we'll play a lot of like the rap shit and again, like we'll play Marvin's Room and we'll play, you know, kind of he's got so many, it's just like you can certainly spread it out. But that's what our channel is. And like I don't have regular personalities on the air talking about gossip and all that. That's not what we do. I have DJs that come on and host shows and play music. So it is the most curated thing that I've ever done in my life. Like where I used to spend, let's say, a half hour at the most on like a daily music log for jamming or for power, I'm spending an hour and a half to 2 hours on a daily music log at Sirius.
You're the program director for that station, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so you're the last word on everything that goes out, correct?
Yeah, I mean outside of the OVO team, but for sure, yeah.
So obviously, got to ask, do you guys play any Kendrick records?
Not at the moment. We were though.
You were.
Yeah. I mean, look,
Kendrick really shot himself in the foot.
Listen, here's the thing, right? Like, if you're gonna ask me for an unbiased opinion, you're not gonna get it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
fair.
Yeah, and listen, there's really, I don't think much more to say about the battle that hasn't been said at this point. I think that if you really break it down and look at the records objectively, just through the lyrics and the bars, this shit is a little bit different than I think what the perception is. You know what I mean? Like if you listen to Family Matters, like that's a fucking rap record. You know what I'm saying? It's not a little dance and all that stuff. And again, no shade. It all worked out like it worked out. But listen, man, like these guys from Toronto have been nothing but the most stand-up humans to me. You know what I'm saying? And have treated me with open arms. And I think we've put together a pretty amazing product. There was an article in GQ that, you know, did a whole thing on our station a couple years ago when we did Drake at the Apollo that really encompassed what the station's about. Listen, and I tell people, it's like our station is not for everybody. Like, let me just say, like, it's like if you go to like commercial radio or you go to like certain hip hop stations, that's almost like your comfort food, which is cool because we all need that, right? Go grab a steak, go grab a burger, grab a chicken. We're like a little bit of a high-end sushi restaurant. Okay. Like if you don't like raw fish, you're probably not gonna like us, that's okay. You know what I'm saying?
I say that too.
Right, we're still serving up some really fucking dope cuisine.
Go eat your sushi.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Do you guys play any Tory Lanez?
No, but it's just, but not because of anything other than just it's. The Tory records were just a little commercial at that time. You know what I mean? So again, we're not playing singles. I mean, we might, you know what I mean? But we're going through album deep cuts. Like we're playing B-sides. We're playing.
Can I ask you, as someone that's from a program director point of view, and someone that's worked in radio and knows how the numbers work, knows how they get the powers, knows all that shit that we don't know.
Yep.
Is there truth to what they're saying about Kendrick getting that extra play and extra push? And is that even possible to do?
Yeah, of course it's possible to do.
Well, because you were saying before about powers and the way they just... So is that just straight... Like,
no, listen. And I mean...
Are you straight just buying slots?
Listen, this is what I say, and I say to everybody. Like, I don't know what happened. I don't ask those questions because that's not what I do with them. But what I will say is that I do know a few of the attorneys and some of the people that are behind it, and they're a lot smarter than I am. And these are people that I don't believe would get involved in something if they didn't think they had a chance to prove their case. So how it all plays out, it plays out, you know, but there's some really, really smart people that are behind it, and we'll see how it goes. Like, and I'm not trying to dodge your question, but I don't know how it all
I get why you got to answer the way. I understand the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm being...
you said you're not biased. You said you're straight up. I'm biased.
100%.
Yeah, I respect that.
But I don't know how...
And my question wasn't kind of just to get you in a spot. It was more like, is that even possible?
Is there
thing?
payola in radio?
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
You know, is it if you're a doctor and you know I work for a pharmacy and I'm trying to get you to hey, could you just recommend this pill to your patients? Well, you know, there may be some stuff that takes place, right? So, do I think it's widespread in radio? No. Do I think it's do I think salespeople push things to people and there may be transgressions in anything in that space? Yeah, of course.
In fairness, there's never really been a lawsuit though that explicitly that picked this out like this.
Yeah, I think I don't know.
There's precedent for this?
Yeah, I think there's probably. I mean, if you look at Elliot Spitzer, he brought a whole lawsuit against the whole industry for payola. 2006. Elliot Spitzer, the Attorney General in New York City. You know, he brought his whole thing. His whole campaign he wrote on was payola. So it's been documented. And again, I don't know what happened here. You know.
Once again, I'm not trying to get you some salacious shit. I don't want to fuck with all that. But at the same time, there are questions to ask. Like, it's just interesting. Like, because obviously, in hip hop, no one's ever sued before like that. Call them up.
Well, here's where I'm also going to stop you a little bit. Right? Like, we keep going back on this hip hop thing, and okay, cool.
I agree with what you want to say.
Hip hop, this ain't hip hop. And again, and just for the purpose of again.
No, feed into this.
No. Well, it's just, listen, it's like, this is a form of, it's rap music, right? And so, and I'm also very, and it's funny you bring up Chris all the time because, I've known Chris for a minute. Yeah, he's such a fucking, hardcore, whatever. And
he's worse than me.
No, and it's all good. I love it. I respect it.
Screwed.
But for me,
his favorite
and this is my take on it. This is my take on it. Is that, music is a form of art. You know what I'm saying? I think if you want to be even remotely successful sitting in the seat that I'm in or something similar, that judging what is and what isn't hip hop is an absolute death sentence. So for instance, it correlates very hand in hand with the way that I look at people go the Jordan LeBron debate, right? I was there for the Michael Jordan generation. I saw it with my own eyes. Michael Jordan's the greatest basketball player of all time. No question. But if my 18-year-old daughter wants to argue that LeBron James is the greatest basketball player of all time based on statistics, based on numbers, based on what she's seen, she's got an argument, right? She's not wrong. If somebody wants to tell me that Trippie Redd is a great musician and a great artist, okay. That is your opinion. You know what I'm saying? And I'm cool with that. I could look at a Pollock painting and I just see fucking paint splattered against a canvas, right? It's okay. But somebody's willing to pay $20 million for that, right? So I think we have to be very careful when we get into lists, when we get into GOATs, when we get into what is art, what isn't art. If somebody's going to consume something and somebody's going to pay for it and somebody is going to tell you that this is valuable to them, and that shit is art, man. Is it hip hop? Well, I mean, by the true definition of hip hop, None of this shit has been hip hop for a very long time.
Thank you.
And that's and again, that's okay. Like
that's fine.
It's like is Kendrick any more hip hop than Drake? No. Kendrick's a great rapper. Drake's a great rapper, great artist. You know, whoever you want to put in that category that you believe that to be the case, then so be it. Like I know it sounds like the very like Zen way of looking at things, but the reality is it's like that's what art is.
But
you know
couldn't we solve this problem with just having more than one name for hip hop? Like it's soft rock and hard rock and metal and speed metal and it's classic rock, but we only have hip hop.
Ask you this. So let's look at a perfect example of the Grammys, right? You know how many country people are pissed off that Beyonce won Grammy? But whatever. Like she made.
But hip hop people should be pissed off that Kendrick won 4 fucking Grammys for the same fucking song. That's not the best song in the world. Like
again, and
it's all bullshit.
See, that's my point. Well, it's bullshit, and it's not. It's the Grammys are there to deliver a show that generates eyeballs, which in turn generates advertisement, which in turn generates money, which in turn generates them a bigger deal for the next time they re-up with CBS, right?
Yeah.
And so I just think, again, and not everybody is in my spot and not everybody is in your spots or that has made this thing their life. But I just, and again, like having young teenage daughters has also changed my view on a lot of these things because or even now Programming Sound 42 is a perfect example. Like I work with 2 gentlemen and I'm going to give them shout outs because they're amazing humans. One is Kid Masterpiece, up and coming producer out of Montreal. He's one of my music guys. And Go Home Roger, who's out of Philadelphia, who's now on the A&R team at OVO. And I don't pick music, like, you know what I'm saying? Like
I was gonna ask. Who does?
We get together on Mondays, and I'm saying, what do we got, guys?
Can people submit?
It's not really that. Like these guys are so entrenched in. Of course, anybody can submit, but these guys are so entrenched in culture and like how the station's supposed to sound and what it is that. Our Monday music meeting, they'll come to the table. They'll be like, here's 7 songs, right? I'll listen to the 7 songs. 3 or 4 of them, I'll probably be like, okay, cool, I get these. Tell me about these other 3. Because I have no idea. Like, it's just sonically, and again, but I'm also aware that they're not making, these rappers or these R&B, they're not making it for middle-aged white guys. You know what I'm saying? No. So just tell me about it. Like, tell me why this was cool. And I don't ever question, I don't ever say, nope, we're not playing that shit. Like, I trust these guys enough to know that the sound that comes out of the speakers and that comes out of the channel is cool because other people tell me it's cool. And again, it's not for everybody, but I have enough on the paper now to know that it's like we're touching, we're like BBC or like almost like more Europe radio. It's like we're touching things that we should be touching and playing things we should be playing, giving artists that don't have by the way, it's almost like Launchpad, like it's redoing it for me. That's the kind of energy I have in it. And value with the channel. So. And
what channel is that on, Sirius?
42.
42.
42. Sound 42.
It's crazy.
To be exact.
Before we get out of here, it's been about 2 hours. We appreciate your time.
Yes, sir. Love this. Great conversation.
What's your favorite record?
Of all time?
All time.
Oh, my God, man. All right, well, I'll keep it. We'll stay hip hop.
You don't got it.
No, I know I don't, but it's the one that stands out that is always like I'll go to forever. It's Pete Rock, CL Smooth, Reminisce.
Okay.
It's the perfect hip hop record to me.
Best horns like on any fucking
horns, just the
amazing.
Beat, the flow, the story, the visuals. It's just to me an absolute perfect record. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that'll be my answer until And I love Stevie and Shaka, whatever, like all the other shit. But it's for hip hop for sure.
What's a record that no matter what's going on, no matter what the fuck is happening, some shit's not going right, or putting this record the fuck on, it's turning all around right now.
In terms of like turning my attitude around?
No, a party.
Oh, turn the party.
An event.
God, it's so fucking, man. I mean, the easy answer is Frankie Beverly and Maze Let It, Before I Let Go. I mean, that's just.
Okay, see, that's the easy answer, but like, I wouldn't think that,
listen, it's like the hip hop cheat record for like, you play, Fat Man Scoop, God rest the dead, and it's my brother, but, Be Faithful, like, for hip hop parties, like that's what all the DJs go to. Like, fuck, party's dead. Boom, like bass drop.
Okay. What are 4 more?
Yeah. No, I'm not giving you any more of my secrets. No, but we could go on for days. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. So.
I thought it was wild. So like, all the shit that I don't want to put it in my perspective, but all the shit that I've done like musically, like the one thing I could never find was those fucking Guardian freestyles from 94.5.
Yeah.
And I always like I'm like, yo, I used to freestyle on 94.5. People are like, no, you didn't. I'm like, nah, I'm telling you, I did.
Yeah. Well, what I will tell you is hopefully sometime over the next month, I'm gonna get some more of the Launchpad shows up. I did talk to E-Double a little bit. I want to do something special for the 25th anniversary. I want to see what he wants to do. Obviously, he's taken the show now for the past X amount of years. But on my SoundCloud, I'm uploading a bunch of the Launchpad shows, so maybe your shit pops up on there. I haven't been through them all yet.
So what happened was when I saw you at the club, when I approached you, I was like, yo, you kind of walk. I'm stressed. Maybe like, oh shit, like I remember you guys.
I've seen the CD.
Yeah, you were like, I remember you guys.
There's the amount of CDs I have, see Smoke.
And
track one.
That was dope.
AWOL, track, they're all over my fucking house.
And that was, but you gotta understand, homie, like being like a local rapper that's like trying to come up through the rank, right? To have someone that's the fucking program director of Drake Station, The Breakfast Club, fucking all this shit, to be like, oh, I know your shit.
Yeah.
I used to play it, but not even that. You were like, yo, I just uploaded a fucking show with you on it.
Yep.
I went back and found it.
Right.
It's on the computer right now. I downloaded my computer.
That's why I want to. That's why
it was so dope to find that.
Yeah, and that's why I want to get them up. It's like I don't really care, but I had so many people over the years, and it was funny. It was this one crazy little stalker guy. I don't even know who he is, so if he listens, my apologies. But he would hit me nonstop, be like, "Yo, I'm looking for this." Smoke Bulger freestyle or whatever it was, and I was like, bro, like I don't fucking know. And then I was like, I do know because I have it. I might have that somewhere. The furthest back they go was 2004. I don't have because the shows from 2000 to 2003 were all done live, so I wasn't recording them at a time, so I don't have those. But yeah, so slowly I'll get them up there. So
what is want them, like the craziest thing you have in your vault?
Craziest thing I have from
what's
my
the combination
from my career.
Yeah, like because like all DJs have fucking this music that didn't come out. I got so and so on a record. I had this freestyle from so and so.
From WERS, I wasn't even there for it, but I took like the mini DV tapes of when they had like Run DMC for some like Christmas special.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Like, I mean, like with the internet, man, that's kind of rare nowadays, because everything is kind of popped up. You know what I mean? Like people have put about I used to
because we used to have like Tech in here. He's like, nah, we got the whole fucking One Nation album.
Yeah, right.
Like, well, I mean, I used to tape all the Stretch and Bobbito shows, so I have all the old Stretch and Bob shows.
Like we had Static in here. Yeah. We went to see Static, and he was like, he had fucking records with like who do you have on records? Mr. Cheeks is a record with like Ice-T, Ice Cube, and like fucking King T or some shit like that.
Yeah,
like, what the fuck?
I mean, I got programmed, like, I was Fresh Fest. I got the Run DMC program.
You guys got all the good shit. Yeah, you guys got all the good shit.
I got, ticket stubs from that. I got, tickets. I got a program for when I went to go see the Jacksons live in concert in Philly. Stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, and as far as like any like music that I think that I have that nobody else has,
so you don't have anything that you only for your ears?
Again, I'll have to, as I go through the process of going through shit, I might find something.
When so and so came in here and freestyle, like, I got that shit in the fucking no one got that shit.
Again,
like, this guy like loves that kind of shit.
But I do.
Yeah, so it's like I might. You know what I'm saying? I just I'm so early in the process of like even going through stuff. But again, like locally, like I got freestyles from Dre, Smoke, and Frankie or whoever it was that never saw the light of day. But again, like Ed and Term used to come up all the time, like, and just they were kind of like some of the early ones. Acrobatic on his early side. I mean, that's how Ak ended up doing sports wrap up, because he was coming up doing the Launchpad. I introduced him to Ramiro, and he did the sports wrap up.
Dope.
So yeah, there's stuff in the stash I just haven't got to yet. That
man,
I will at some point.
It's so cool, man. It really is, like, to get here and just to be able to sit down and talk with, like, I didn't even know about like the breakfast stuff. That's just crazy. Like that. It's an awesome career. I mean, congratulations,
Appreciate
man.
It's still going. So let's keep rocking. And I love what you guys are doing. I love the vibe, the setup.
Appreciate it, man.
I love talking about this stuff because kind of where I'm at now. I've been gone for 16 years. I don't get to talk a lot about the Boston.
Biggest accomplishment that you feel, like your biggest accomplishment?
My kids and my family, bro. That's the biggest. That'd always be the biggest. Always. The music, the music things. It's like, I'm very proud.
What are you most proud of in music?
I'm proud of myself, man. To be honest, like, just it's like, I'm proud of the relationships I've made. I love the connections that I've made in the business, whether or not it's just somebody that I deal with on a musical level or on a professional level, or somebody that I deal with on a personal level. You know what I mean? Like I'm in a really good space. Like even tonight, like where I'm going to DJ at like Rob's spot, Hugh, like I don't DJ out anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like it's gotten full circle for me that this is just something I enjoy doing, and it's a hobby again for me.
Well, it sounds like everything kind of fell into place because you were just passionate.
Super passionate.
So you're one of the lucky
and by the way, that's
ones.
why I do this like party night. Just I'm passionate.
Yeah.
I go in there, I play whatever I want. My friend owns the place. Like that's cool. You know what I'm saying?
What you said at the beginning of the interview was like, I was cataloging my records, and you're like, it's a passion project. And in my head, I'm going, no, that is like
work.
the worst kind of work possible.
Yeah.
So when someone is like, that's a passion project, you're gonna excel because like, you're gonna like it's just you're gonna be on that shit.
Has any artist or record label producer or manager tried to strong arm you?
No.
Really? Okay.
No. I mean, we've butted heads. I mean, the record label people will tell you it's like, she's an asshole because I was one of those
stern.
Well, I just was very direct. What I mean? I told them why we weren't going to play something and why it wasn't going to work, or I would say come back next week. And a lot of the label people are just listen, and I respect it. Like that's their job. Like their job is to get you excited about something, and I get excited about it. They're going to push me to be more excited, right?
Yeah.
But no, as far as artists, I've had nothing. I mean,
like WRS has the bulletproof glass.
Yeah.
Has anyone ever like approached you afterwards and be like, why the fuck didn't you play my shit?
Oh yeah. For sure. But whatever. It's like I'll have a conversation with them about it. And probably it usually ends up like, we didn't play that, but we played this. You know what I mean? So I mean that's always going to happen. But again, like I don't really, I'm pretty honest with people in terms of why or why not something worked.
With what you're doing now, working with Drake, is there any day-to-day with him?
No. I deal pretty much with my two guys and then the people on the OVO side. I mean, he's awesome. And
do you you guys have a relationship? He knows your name.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I mean, we're not sending texts and chatting every day and whatever. But he's dropping a new project.
One of the biggest artists in the world, man.
Yeah, I mean, he's dropping a new project. I'm not sure when this airs, but this Friday with Party Next Door, and Party Next Door is dropping a project that he's.
Did you know that?
So
I did.
Yeah, it's gonna. I think it's more for the. It's more for the.
Do you have any question for him for all that shit? Because you're into that shit big time.
Well, all right, so he's dropping that project with Party, but after that, supposedly he's dropping a solo album. You got any word on that?
I have no word on it. I heard it the same time you did, so I'll be ready for when it happens. So.
Yeah, he's pulling the Heartbreak Hush show. If it's his Party album, dropping on Valentine's.
Yeah, so they're in Australia for the next month touring. So we'll see. I'm excited. About what's next for him.
And you would never like tour or anything like that. Not your thing.
I mean, I enjoy travel. I mean, they want to pay for my expenses to hit the road.
Well,
why not?
I'm sure a new album's coming out. They're gonna need a DJ for their tour, right?
No, I mean, listen, if it's somewhere where it's warm and I can play golf, then I'm on my way. So.
It's a great question for you that we ask all the time. So we'll keep it any longer. But we always try to figure out like hip hop. What is the best hip hop song, right? Mm-hmm. That is still like a good hip hop song, but it's commercialized. Like Juicy's one, Slam's one.
I mean, the one that I've been hearing is what's the commercial?
I got 5 on. It's one of those.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of them now. I mean, the Biggie. I mean, certainly Juicy's. Passing
Me By.
That is a good question.
Like, especially as a DJ.
I'm trying to think like what they're playing. Yeah, I mean, the problem is like when you get to those records like in the clubs, like you kind of almost don't play them anymore because it's like it's been heard so much.
But not even playing it wise. I'm saying like that. Like as a hip hop head, you're like, I respect this lyrically, and it's like commercial.
I mean, there's a lot of that though nowadays. I mean, any of these any of these.
Give us one. Making a list, man. Give us one.
Fuck, you put me on the spot. And
Sure am.
It really is.
And I'm terrible at this stuff. What is a commercially successful record? I mean, I'm just thinking artist-wise. Like, I don't want to use Drake, and I don't want to use like any like the things. Like, I mean, like you could go through LL's catalog, you know what I'm saying? Like doing it, you know what I'm saying? Like or any like Tupac, like Dear Mama, you know what I'm saying? Like when you we used to play the shit out of
that's a good one.
We used to play the shit out of the jam, and I wasn't really.
Dear Mama's better than Keep Your Head Up.
No, they're both good because when you I wasn't a Pac fan, right?
No, I don't like Dear Mama. I hate that song.
Yeah,
but for this question,
but when you listen to the fucking record, it's like holy shit! Like he tapped into some real shit here. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, there you go. Tupac, Dear Mama.
Dear Mama's a good one. No one said Dear Mama yet. That's why we gotta have all these.
I had to go think of like all the songs like we played at Jam that I was so sick of hearing.
You want to hear something fucking dope that we had when we interviewed Mr. Cheeks? That he said that oh no, it was Brenda's Got a Baby, not Dear Mama. Anyways, we asked him about Renee and shit, and he said the inspiration for Renee was Brenda's Got a Baby.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because that was the first time he heard someone rap about something that wasn't like street.
Yep.
And he could do it, so it's cool and
like someone else's story.
Yeah, someone else did a story and shit from someone's perspective and shit like that. Dope shit, man. It's been amazing, man. We really, really appreciate you coming by.
Thanks, guys. I had a blast.
If you want to tell this camera right here where they can find you.
You can find me behind the scenes, hopefully. Sound 42, Sirius XM. Make sure you tune in and experience what we're doing, man. I'm really proud of what I'm doing, and man, that's it, man. Thanks to these guys and Big Dookie chain. I don't know if I get to take this with me or not, but thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you, man. You want to tell these guys anything?
Like and subscribe.
Yeah, like and subscribe. Hit that subscribe button.
There we go.
There we go.
Sense lives. Marty forever. Fuck Kurt Schilling. Peace.
There you go.